Amherst School Committee at 6:00 p.m. Because one person is remote, we have to do a roll call. So Deb Leonard,
Here.
Bridget,
Aye.
Sarah.
Did you say Sarah?
Yes, Sarah.
Present. Sorry.
Yes, Sarah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Jennifer.
Present.
And me, I'm present. So since the meeting is called to order, the main agenda item is reorganization. And I'm going to turn over to Doug, but before I do, I just want to make sure everyone knows I do not wish to be considered for chair. Doug, you're up.
Unfortunately, I forgot to start the recording, which I just did, but I'm pretty sure the minutes will reflect the call to meeting in without issue. First order of business will be to nominate and then elect a chair for the Amherst School Committee. Once that's done, that chair will take lead of the meeting and elect a vice chair and a secretary, and then we can look at subcommittee appointments. Those will be all the things that we do today. I would just say some subcommittee appointments are necessary in the immediate, and some aren't as urgent. But we'll get to that when we get there. So I will open the floor to nominations. Jennifer.
I'd like to nominate Bridget Hines for chair.
Me or Doug. I would like to nominate Sarah Marshall for chair.
Are there other nominations? No. I will ask the two candidates, are you willing to accept the chair if so elected?
Yes.
Okay. So, since we have two candidates, we'll do, of course, because we have a remote person, we'll do a roll call vote, and I'll ask each person to identify. Let me think about this. I guess it's a majority vote of the two candidates. So, in no particular order, Irv, your vote.
Sarah Marshall.
Thank you. Sarah?
Myself?
Bridget?
Myself.
Jennifer?
Bridget.
Deb?
Sarah.
Okay, so we have a majority 3-2 for Sarah as the chair of the Amherst School Committee. And so now I'll turn over to Sarah to take nominations we need to do vice chair and secretaries for the Union 26, which will be the next meeting. So I'll turn to you to run the
Okay.
meeting.
All right. Thank you. So the floor is open for nominations for vice chair. Jen?
I nominate Bridget Hines for vice chair.
Deb?
I nominate Irv Rhodes.
Any more nominations? Irv and Bridget, would you accept if elected?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So let's follow the same procedure, just go around the room.
Point of order.
Yes,
May we speak to the candidates?
sure. Go ahead, Jen.
I nominated Bridget, and I think she would make a fantastic vice chair. She's very impartial and very detail-oriented and data-driven. And I'm just going to say the thing that we don't talk about, which is that the 5 of us members ran in 2 different camps. And I think the most inclusive and democratic structure for this committee is to have each camp represented in the chair and vice chair positions.
May I say something?
Yes, Irv.
I think that injecting into the conversation of electing a vice chair or any other officer, that there are 2 or 3 or 1 or more camps is inappropriate.
Deb, would you like to say anything about in favor of Irv, whom you nominated?
Irv has a lot of experience, and I find that extremely valuable, especially in a time of transition for the district.
Thank you. You may have to speak louder. I'm not sure.
Should I repeat that?
Did everyone hear?
No, it
Okay, can you repeat that, please?
Irv has a lot of experience, and I think it's an important time in our district to draw upon that.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments before we vote? All right, so I'll just go around the table and ask for which candidate you would like to vote. Irv Rhodes.
Irv for Irv.
Deb.
Irv.
Jennifer.
Bridget.
Bridget.
I'll vote for myself, I guess.
And I'll vote for Irv.
That was a
So-
tough one, though.
Thank you. Okay, so Irv Rhodes will be vice chair. So now the third position is to nominate a clerk, and I thought that was clerk of this committee. Just a moment. Doug, you say that's specifically a clerk only for the Union 26 committee, or?
That's right. So the position is sometimes called secretary, or clerk. The idea is that for Union 26, 3 members from the Amherst School Committee and 3 members from the Pelham School Committee, and so the election of that third officer is for the purpose of serving on the Union 26 committee.
Thank you. So the Amherst School Committee itself does not have a secretary. Okay, thank you. Jennifer.
Sorry,
yes.
just point of order. I just wanted to clarify, the election of secretary is for the Amherst School Committee. It's not secretary for Union 26, it's for the Amherst School Committee. I think what Doug intended was, the Union 26 is made up of 3, as Doug said, 3 representatives from Amherst and 3 from Pelham, and the 3 from Amherst are the chair, vice chair, and secretary. So whoever those 3 offices elected in Amherst go to sit on Union 26. And then Union 26 does their own election for their seats, for
Okay.
their
So
positions.
the secretary, whom we elect, will be on the Union 26
Yes.
committee, but does not function necessarily as a secretary.
Right, we don't, yes.
Okay,
right.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, great. So the floor is now open for nominations for secretary. Jennifer,
I nominate Bridget Hines.
thank you. Any more nominations?
Irv,
Irv,
I nominate Deb.
thank you. Any more nominations? Would anyone like to speak on behalf of the candidates? Jen?
I'm going to again say the thing people think is inappropriate, which is that for the 3 officer positions to be filled by candidates who ran together in one camp it's fine, but it's just much more inclusive for some of the positions to go to people who ran separately. Thank you.
Deb?
I didn't run in a camp.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I didn't run in a camp.
I think perhaps this is a discussion we should not
Right.
pursue.
I'd just like to speak for myself. I just really like to work with our colleagues in a very shared way, where we have the assumption of best intentions of one another, and we start to work collaboratively. And I think camps or no camps, there's a big segment of the community who did feel shut out from Amherst Forward leadership before, and so I do think there would be some representation to having a different voice at the table, just in terms of taking into consideration everything that's at play, and also not stepping forward and saying things that may inadvertently offend groups of people or set groups of people off to the side. I think we've wasted a lot of time on the bigger committee, having situations where the public was quite unhappy with us, and I feel like at this point, it would be really wonderful if we could work some of that out internally as a group and present a real diversity of opinion to the community. And, what we're doing is a hard job, and it's really time to change the climate. And I feel like having a diversity of people represented would be one way to do that, even as limited as that diversity is in so many ways.
Thank you. Irv, do you want to speak on behalf of your nomination of Deb?
I believe that Deb would make a really good secretary. I think that she would bring some kinds of experiences there. I am not, by the way, I'm not unmoved by the comments made by Jennifer and Bridget.
Any more comments or statements? All right. I'll go in a different order. Start with Bridget.
Okay, well, I'll vote for myself, thanks.
Thank you. Jennifer.
Bridget.
Deb.
Myself.
Irv.
I've heard Bridget and I've heard Jennifer, and it disturbs me to no end that there is perception, at least by them and maybe perhaps by others, that we're voting in camps. I do not wish for that notion to go forward. So I'm going to vote for Bridget.
And I will vote for Bridget. Thank you. All right, so our only remaining business, I believe, is to populate at least some of the committees and subcommittees and advisory groups. Doug, do you have a list to show? I have an
I do.
old list. Oh, good. I hope it's more recent than mine. It has, excuse me, that's the regional list.
Is that the regional list? No.
Well,
they're
I'm
very-
sorry, no.
They're very, very similar.
I'm sorry.
Let me just make sure that.
Let's see, they should be broken up there.
There we go, that's what I wanted to make sure that it was from the broadcast purposes. Can you see that out, or should I make it a little larger? I'll make it a little larger. Here we go. All right,
Excuse me, does this list continue down the page?
it does.
Okay, okay.
So we'll
It's not
scroll-
nearly
we'll
long
scroll-
enough.
We'll scroll as we go through. I'm going to just change my own scan. I'll make edits on it as we go, and I can explain any of the committees that you wish to. I think the ones that are critical in the very, very short term, certainly the Budget Coordinating Group is likely to meet in the next month or so. Joint Capital Planning is definitely going to meet starting this month. And the Elementary School Building Committee meets on Friday. Those you definitely want to get sorted. That would help if I scrolled it on the screen that you guys can see. So,
What about the committee's own budget and audit subcommittee? Is that, I would assume it will be working soon.
yeah, so often, so budget and audit is not a, because there's 5 members, I think it generally is considered the group just does it. When there's 9 on the regional, they have a separate, smaller committee for that purpose. They also, because the regional school committee has, because of the independence of the regional school district, there's other things they need to specifically address and attend to, like the audit. So the audit for Amherst is done by the town of Amherst, and so we provide information to them, but they actually carry and handle the audit. So it's a more narrowly focused, which is why there's not a separate committee, but it's in, which is why it's not listed here, actually.
Okay, great. That simplifies things. All right, so it looks like the Budget Coordinating Group will have 2 members from this committee, and Irv is currently on it. Irv, have you met this budget cycle with that group?
I don't think there's been any meetings that I've known.
Okay.
Has there, Doug, I haven't been notified of any.
None yet.
All right, so we can,
I do wish to be on the Budget Coordinating Group, yes.
all right. Now, we want to know if there are 3 or more people who want to be on that group. But so far, is there a second person who would be willing to be on that group? And I gather that will be meeting soon.
I'd be willing.
Okay. So Doug, you're making notes, Irv and Bridget? Sorry, are you making notes on paper or? Oh, gosh.
I
it takes-
electronically
I
made the
see,
change.
It takes a little bit. Okay, thank you. All right. Joint Capital Planning Committee, which I assume will also kick off pretty soon.
Yes, probably the next week to 10 days, probably, would be my guess.
All
Yeah,
right.
And that one I do not wish to stay on.
All right. Jennifer, would you like to continue on that?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I would be happy to be on that. Is anyone else angling to be on the JCPC? Okay.
And if I misspell your name, let me know. It is Sarah with an H, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, and then the Budget Coordinating Group, has that begun meeting? I would have thought it might have.
Budget Coordinating Group and the Joint Capital Planning, neither one have met yet this
Okay.
year. I would guess that they'll likely have a meeting in January, though. And then,
I guess that's not where, Budget Coordinating Group, okay. I see,
did you
I
wanna
need to
do-
stop looking at my out-of-date list. All right, is there a third committee that we should
I-
take care of at this time?
the School Building Committee?
Oh, yes, elementary school, and it's still meeting Friday mornings by Zoom, is that correct?
Yes. So they're
All right.
meeting roughly once a month, but a little bit more as we get closer to certain deadlines.
Would anyone like to be on that committee in particular? Deb, wonderful. Now, we have some time, and there are plenty more committees. Should we? Keep going?
Sarah,
Yes?
One thing, Sarah, in terms of the elementary school building committee, the town manager had indicated earlier that when this person was selected, they should immediately get in touch with the town manager so the town manager can appoint them to that committee.
All right, Deb, I'm sure you could attend as a member of the public at least, if you're not appointed by Friday.
Right,
Yeah.
the next meeting of the town council would be when you'd formally be appointed, then you'll get sworn in. But certainly, I can get you the invite for the meeting on Friday.
Sure.
All
And
right, the other one that's really important is the warrant authorization, and Jennifer is currently doing that.
Jen, do you enjoy that one? Would you like to continue?
Sure, I'll
Would you like
continue.
to, I'm sorry?
Yes, I'll continue.
You continue?
Yep.
So
Certainly happy to ask for a different volunteer.
it's
Yes?
probably not a bad idea to have a backup in case
Yes, I was
Jennifer's out of
just-
town or
Yeah.
something of that sort. So
Yeah.
if anyone wants to serve in that backup role.
So I'll just say that signing warrants is pretty easy. It's all done electronically. You don't have to physically sign anything. They just send you emails, and then you sign them through using Adobe Sign. It just requires checking your email regularly, and then responding regularly, and then also keeping track of the warrants like in a separate folder so that you can then read them at the meeting. So it's not hard. There's no meetings, and it's just involved. It's just staying on top of things.
And they're brought to the committee post hoc. They've already been authorized, and you're just we're just publicly announcing the expenditure, yes?
Well, but you're the first one who sees them. They haven't already been brought to the committee.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
when the representative comes to this meeting to say, I signed these warrants.
Yes, then
it's-
they're made public.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So would anyone like to be the backup for warrants? Sure. Okay. Thank you, Deb.
Hey, Doug.
Any others?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Just, Doug, my last name is IAO.
It is.
Thank you.
Oh, it's right sometimes.
It's a
but
tricky
not-
one.
I don't actually have a clock in front of me, so what time is it? So we still have time. Should we keep going?
Well, one other thing, the collaborative representative is rather important. And it would if someone wants to step up to that, it would be really good if they did so.
So I have a question that touches on the regional business, so tell me if this is out of line. I believe the region also has a rep. If
Yes.
the regional rep is an Amherst School Committee member, do we have to also appoint somebody? Or just the same person, like automatically? We don't want to end up with two different people, I assume. Jennifer?
I mean, I think it's okay to have it be two different people. If it is the same person, then that person should wear their Amherst hat and their region hat when they attend. But I think it's okay for it to be two different people. Just share the love.
All right. Can anyone here speak to what that organization does and what are the expectations of the committee, Amherst School Committee member delegated
All
to
right.
that?
So I can speak to it because I was representing Amherst at one point in time, all of last year. It is a fairly important group, the Collaborative for Educational Services. We are a member, i.e. Amherst is and the region is. We pay for that privilege. They provide a huge number of services to each school district, including programs that some of our kids attend. It's a multifaceted organization and a rather large one, but has a great impact throughout the region and the area, Western Massachusetts area. And those people who serve on the committee usually are school committee members from other towns around us, including some from, I think, for a long time, the representative who served as the chair was from Shrewsbury. Anyway, I think it's a fairly important, and it meets at least once a month. And of course, if you decide to join, you may select to be on a subcommittee. But it's not a heavy lift, but it's important work.
Okay, thank you. Do you happen to know if it meets on any particular day of the week when it meets?
I think it's either Wednesday or Thursday, I think. It's either Wednesday or Thursday once a month.
Okay. All right, anyone interested in
I'm
that?
interested. Yep.
It's right up here, yeah. Okay, Bridget will do that, thank you. Unless, I'm sorry, I didn't even look around. Okay, all right. Anyone else think any other particular assignment is urgent? Although we do have time for a few more, so. Maybe the CPAC liaison, which is the Special Education Parent Advisory Council. No one on that currently, I guess.
So that,
Or the person's name was just removed. Deb.
so that conflicts with the school building project meeting?
CPAC does?
Maybe.
CPAC, Friday mornings?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same Friday morning or not offhand.
Okay.
We'd have to check on that.
Is it a regular meeting?
The CPAC meeting is very regular, yeah.
And
And
this-
it's virtual.
And the school building project?
Is,
Every other week, I believe.
yeah, I could.
No?
I have placeholders in my calendar, which I will take a moment and look for.
All right.
Ah.
While you're looking, Bridget has some information
Yeah.
about the CPAC, I think?
So
Yeah.
this week, it meets on Friday.
Yeah.
And they meet every other week. And once in person and once remotely, so it's not always remote. And this Friday, their in-person meeting is at the Works. So,
And this is organized by the parents. That
Yeah,
is,
it's the
the committee
parents.
member is there to listen and,
yeah, it's a state requirement that every town
Oh.
have a CPAC.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so as part of that, the parent group meets together. And sometimes they meet with the special ed director as well. Depends on what they put on the agenda.
okay, thank you. I would be happy to be on that. Irv, I don't know what you're prepared to, what committees you're prepared to serve on virtually. Is that one that you would want to do?
Definitely not. I think that the budget committee, budget coordinating group, as budget season, that is a heavy lift. And it's not something that, given other kind of commitments that are going to come up, that I want to commit to at this time. I might commit to it later on. It really depends on commitments that might have to be made via the region and or the union, Union
Okay.
26.
All right, thank you. Just wanted to give you the opportunity. Then LPAC or MPAC, multilingual.
Did
Yes?
you, I should add your name to,
Yes, please. CPAC. All right, multilingual, I assume, Parent Advisory Council? I really, ad hoc, so we don't even know. It doesn't meet as regularly as CPAC, and we don't know when it might meet or how
either.
often. Okay. Jen?
I'll do it. I have done it in the past, and their meetings have been in the evenings,
Oh,
and
okay.
not too frequently, as far as I know, but I'd be happy to do it again.
Thank you. All right. Professional Leave Request Subcommittee. It's a very quick,
that's usually covered by the chair.
oh, okay.
It's a once-a-year
Yeah.
thing that comes up if there are any requests.
Right.
So I'm trying to remember, we've had one in the Amherst, we've had one in the last 5 or 6 years, I think.
And does the chair, with who else is on this committee, I guess? Can't be a subcommittee of one. Is this faculty or administrators who is on this?
So I think it's in conjunction with the regional school committee
Okay,
and potentially the Pelham School Committee, because it's contractual language in the Unit A contract, so the teacher's contract. So I think the chairs meet, discuss the project, and make a recommendation to the committees the committee that is approving that. So for example, we did one we had a sabbatical request for the regional school district. And so the regional school committee met and made that choice about whether to support that or not, because that has a financial implication
Right.
when you do that. If, on the other hand, the request was made and it was an Amherst elementary school teacher, then it would come to the Amherst School Committee for approval at that point. So the committee, the subcommittee is a joint committee across multiple school committees.
districts, yes.
Yeah.
But let's say a Wildwood teacher files a request. Does the entire subcommittee that includes regional Pelham representatives meet about that? Or are the requests just kind of handed off to?
That's a great question.
Okay.
I think, sort of skimming the notes here, I think it's in the case where there's only, sort of one to consider, it would be just reviewed by the chair and then, brought to the full committee for recommendation. Obviously, the superintendent's recommendation is also part of that conversation that you guys have. It has a financial impact on the district in which the teacher resides, and so that's the primary, not the primary, that's a considerable thing to consider as you support or don't support that leave request. But I'd have to check on some institutional knowledge, which I don't have, as
Okay.
to some of the functional
All right.
steps.
I'm sure there's plenty of time. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I will say this, the request has to be in, I want to say by December 1st, so that, and it's partly for budgeting reasons that we have that
Right.
deadline. So the review of these is basically, the review and voting on it would be in December for any of the school committees that be involved.
So are there any? If they were due by
The one-
December 1st?
No, we took
There are
care of
no-
the one, we had one for the regional school district, we took care of it.
So there are no outstanding. I see. Okay, thank you.
So we got a whole year.
All right. Amherst Media Liaison. Jennifer's doing that.
I would like to continue.
Okay, what does that involve? Can you just tell us briefly?
So Amherst Media, as we all know, is our community media partner in Amherst, and their bylaws dictate that they have board members of their board, because they're a nonprofit, and they dictates that one of the board members is appointed by the school committee. So I've been attending board meetings and acting as a board member of that organization. The last meeting that I attended, we talked about they're a small organization, so we talked about like HR functions within the organization and various things like that. So I think I'm going to be on the personnel subcommittee. So it's basically it being a member of a basically a nonprofit board.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I had thought it had something more specifically to do with like their coverage of Amherst meetings. Or,
No, not logistically like that. But I think the reason that they have a school committee member on their board is because of the relationship between broadcasting our meetings.
But the work is essentially to help their organization
To
function well.
Right, to have oversight of their organization.
Great, thank you. Sure. And lastly, I think a delegate to the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, which gets you a 3-day junket to Cape Cod in November.
So I was the delegate. I've been the delegate, and I attended not this past year, but the prior year. And just to be clear, like our school committee is a member of MASC, and any committee member can attend the annual meeting in November, even if you're not the delegate, because there's workshops and breakout sessions and speeches and speakers, and it's really wonderful. But as part of that annual meeting, they have a delegate meeting. And the delegates vote on organizational things within MASC. So that's the delegate role. But any member can attend the conference.
Right.
So I'm happy to continue, but I'm also happy to let someone else. As I said, I didn't attend this year, so I'm happy to let someone else take that on if anyone's interested.
Is that, so presumably we have lots of time, right? I mean, there's no business
Right.
for the delegate.
Right, we do have time.
Particularly. Why don't we postpone that one then? Okay. Doug, do you have any more, or are there any ad hoc or
There were two
there-
up above that we didn't talk about.
with this
If we
school
have
equity,
time.
school equity advisory
Yeah,
committee
I
and
don't-
superintendent evaluation?
Right, I
Yeah.
don't know if we want to talk about those now or not.
Yeah.
It's up to you as the chair.
What's, just looking at the clock? 12 minutes. We can do this. All right. Who is currently on the Special Equity Advisory Committee? And is it in front of me? Oh, it's at the bottom.
Sorry.
And there are 2 total representatives from 3 school committees. So we could just not have one, is effectively. But I mean, I'm not recommending that, just understanding. Yes, Bridget? What?
Yeah, no, that's one of the committees when I looked at the list that I'm interested in being a part of. Yeah.
Okay. Would anyone prefer to do that? Want to make a case? All right, Bridget. And lastly, I think Superintendent Evaluation Committee. And I want to be sure I understand, at least, this committee's job will be to evaluate the interim superintendent. Yes?
Actually, all of you evaluate
I thought so.
whether it's interim or not. So what these
Yeah.
people do is help to gather the information and compile the results of all of the different folks' evaluation documents. So each of you will fill out an evaluation, and that's prescribed by the state as far as the format of that. To a large degree, not exclusively. You can create your own form if you want, but it's often best to follow the structure that the state gives, because you're compelled to evaluate on a series of standards and certain metrics
Yes.
and rating. There's needs improvement and proficient. And it's kind of like the MCAS scores, basically. But there's usually 4 ratings that you can give from, extraordinary to needs improvement and in between. And then there's 4 broad standard areas, and then within that there are a number of specific areas of evaluation. So there's rating each of those different things, and then there's commenting on each of those different things. And so what the evaluation subcommittee does is to compile those together. So,
For the summative report, or,
Right.
yes.
exactly.
I'd be interested to hear from Jennifer or Irv about that process. I thought you all chose the metrics, and, I mean, that it wasn't just a standard form, but that you developed a form. I could be wrong. Speak. Yeah, Jennifer.
Okay, so the superintendent has their goals document.
Right.
And each of the goals, like, is associated with categories that are set by the state when it comes to evaluating a superintendent. And so the subcommittee's job is to, like, create the online form. I mean, it's already been created, and we use the same form from year to year, because the state criteria is the same. So so we basically work with Sasha to create the form, and then each member of each of the committees fills out the form, and as Doug said, there's checkbox ratings as well as some verbatim. So the subcommittee's job is to, as you just said, compile all that information. I think another important thing, though, the subcommittee does is, like, make sure we're on track with timing. Like, make sure that the process starts when it's supposed to start, make sure there's time for everyone to, all the committees to meet, and, like, make sure everyone's on the same page. Like, I think some of that moving things forward and making sure we're on track is the job of the subcommittee.
Thank you. Irv, you have anything to add?
Yeah, most of that work has already been done in relationship to the evaluation by the committee over the last 2 or 3 months. And I think we finally settled on the goals for the superintendent at our last meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
But this evaluation or assessment begins after June 30th? Is that correct? It's after,
It's,
or tell me.
it's a reflection on the current, what's now the current school year.
Right.
So anytime, but we don't start the evaluation, I mean, rating until the end of the school year. Jen?
Yeah, so I guess, I think the committee's job would be to get us started close, around summer or early summer. And then Doug would, like, in the past, we've had, like, an artifacts document where the superintendent, like, lays out how they've met their goals. And I would think that you wouldn't want to do that until close to the end of the fiscal year, because there's stuff going on. But the subcommittee can, in the meantime, get the form ready and, like, get it on the agendas and just make sure we're on track with getting it done.
Right.
And I think it's usually completed by early fall, like, because we don't meet in August, so we talk about it in July, and then I guess that's up to the subcommittee to decide.
But
Okay.
presumably,
There are some deadlines set by the state.
Oh,
too.
okay.
oh,
Well,
presumably you don't want we don't want this process going very far into the new academic
Right,
year,
right.
especially when we will have a new superintendent. Irv, did you want to say something?
Yes, I'm trying to think. The school committee went through a whole process of looking at the goals for Doug this session and spent quite a bit of time. And then and both school committees came up with a goal and voted on it.
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, those things are in place, and that there will be an evaluation of Doug before the end of the year, school year, that is.
You're saying before the end of the year?
Yes.
That's, okay, we need to clarify. We will need to clarify that. I mean, okay. But I'm also thinking we don't need to pick those two people quite yet. Anyone
No.
disagree?
We don't need to.
Okay, so we'll postpone that also. All right, I don't know of any more committees or subcommittees or advisory groups. I'll let Doug check.
I think that's it.
All right, thank you. So our agenda says that we need to adjourn. I don't know why we can't just recess, but I guess we need to adjourn.
yeah, because
But
we're
I thought we were also meeting jointly. No, it's just joint with the, okay. All right.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I don't see Irv. Irv, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. How do you vote, please?
Yes.
Yes. Deb?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Bridget?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you. We are adjourned.
Union 26 School Committee. Call your name, please say present. Um, Sarah Bess,
Sarah Best present.
William,
William present.
Margaret,
Margaret present.
Bridget,
Bridget, present.
Sorry.
Sarah Marshall,
Present.
and me, present. So one of the first task is for us to reorganize. So Doug, would you do the honors?
Okay, so we'll start with, just like we did a few minutes ago for the Amherst School Committee, I'll take nominations for the chair. Once we close the nominations, we'll take a vote. Once the chair is elected, then they will take over and run the meeting in the selection of a vice chair. And I think those are the only two that necessarily have to be picked for the Union 26, and then we can get into the rest of the business of Union 26. So, yes. Do you have a nomination?
I do.
Okay.
I would like to nominate Irv Rhodes, if he's willing to accept.
Definitely will accept.
Are there other nominations? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. Margaret?
Margaret, I.
William?
William, I.
No, I'm stumped. Sarah Bess?
Sarah Best, aye.
Is that right there? Irv?
Irv, aye.
Bridget and Sarah.
Thank you. Bridget?
Bridget, aye.
Sarah?
Sarah, I.
So we've elected a chair, and that's Irv. Irv, if you will take it from here, thank you.
All right, we need to have a vice chair. So I'll open the floor for nominations for vice chair. Do I have any?
Point of order.
Point of order.
I just have a question. Can we can vote among the whole committee, so for other towns or just for our particular town?
There are 6 of us on the union, 3 from Pelham and 3 from Amherst. So that's what the vote is. Those are the people who will be voting.
So, Irv, can I explain a little bit more?
If you want to, go ahead.
So it's, the Union 26 is specifically for the elementary schools in relationship to the superintendent. So it's the 3 members, you know, the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary of the Pelham School Committee, and the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary of the Amherst School Committee. And that makes Union 26, and Union 26 with the region is the relationship to the superintendent for all 3 districts. It's a little fussy.
I understand that piece. Let me just clarify my question, if it's okay, which is, while we're making nominations now, even if you lived in Amherst, you could nominate someone from another town.
Oh, yes,
Okay, perfect.
sorry.
Any other questions?
I had a quick question. Could we, because I'm confused, I was not at the Amherst meeting earlier, so could we have a rundown of who is on Union 26 now?
Yes.
I think, okay.
Yes, Sarah Marshall, Bridget, and myself. And if those 2 people in the audience could raise your hand so that William knows who you are, that'd be great. All right, so
is it-
nomination.
Okay, perfect. So I would nominate William chair.
Any other nominations? So, do I see a hand?
I would just like to know that William is willing.
That's fine, yes.
Okay.
All right, there are no other nominations? Seeing none, we have 1 person who's been nominated, and that's William. And given that, we'll, since there's only one, it's by acclamation. Thank you.
I think we still have to vote. We still have to vote, Irv.
You still have to vote, even
Yep.
though there's only one?
Yes.
Because people
That
may not
seems
vote for them.
superfluous, but if someone says we still have to vote, all right, so, William,
William, I.
Irv, aye. Sarah Bess,
Sarah Bess, yes.
Sarah Marshall,
Sarah, yes.
Bridget,
Bridget, yes.
and myself, yes. It's unanimous.
And Margaret?
I'd like to vote Irv. This is Margaret. I would vote,
Yes, Margaret.
I would vote for William.
Margaret, all right, did I miss you? Yes, I did. I just saw, all right, Margaret, all right, good enough. We have a chair and we have a vice chair for Union 26. So, given that, we can move on to the next order of business.
So I will call the Regional School Committee to order at 6:52. Given we have a remote friend, we will do roll call vote. Sarah?
Sarah Marshall, present.
Bridget?
Bridget Hines, present.
Jennifer?
Jennifer, present.
William?
William, present.
Anna?
Anna, present.
Deb?
Deb present.
Tillman?
Tillman, present.
Sarah Bass, present. And Irv?
Irv present.
Excellent. So the Regional School Committee is called to order. So our first joint item is an update from the subcommittee for the new superintendent. Jennifer, take it away.
All right, so I'm going to give an update on the search committee and on the job posting. So first, the search committee. So just as a reminder, the search committee for the superintendent position will be made up of 20 people. That will include parents, guardians, school staff, high school students, and community members. And the search committee's job, just as a reminder, is to review all applicants, determine which applicants to interview for the superintendent position, interview the applicants, and then select finalists to forward to the joint committees. So the joint committees, us, the Regional School Committee and Union 26, ultimately have the decision over who we offer the position to. So after the search committee forwards finalists to the joint committees, the search committee's job is done. And then at that point, the joint committees will then decide what our process looks like in terms of bringing the finalists in for site visits, community sessions, interviews, et cetera. Okay, so the interest form to serve on the search committee launched on December 15th, and it's going to close at 4 p.m. on January 15th. And the SNS has been implementing our outreach plan to get the word out to the school community that this form exists, that this opportunity exists. And so here are some of the things that we've done so far. It's been in the weekly ARPS update at least twice so far. All of the principals have been contacted and asked to share about the opportunity via their communication venues with families. I emailed Principal Sadiq and the high school assistant principals and asked them to notify high school students about this opportunity. All the PGOs have been contacted. The Amherst Family Center and the CPAC Steering Committee have been contacted. It's been posted on ARP's social media. It had 13 shares on Facebook, which I think is pretty high, including Mindy Dom. Our state rep Mindy Dom shared it on her page. The Amherst Education Foundation offered to send it to their list, and they have a lot of alumni families on their list. I contacted all of the Amherst town councilors, the town manager, and town staff and asked them to share it with their networks and constituents. We sent a press release to the Gazette, Mass Live, the Amherst Indy, and the Reminder, and I believe all 4 news outlets have published an article about this opportunity. We've had physical flyers created and posted. We've sent emails to the presidents of all of our staff unions, and that isn't even an exhaustive list. Thank you to those of you who signed up to participate in getting the word out. So far, as of 9 a.m. today, we've had 46 applicants for the 20 seats. And of the 40 categories on the form that people could check off, all but 6 are represented by the 46 applicants. So it's looking pretty good. And so the next steps are, the form is going to close at 4 p.m. on January 15th. The SNS is going to meet on January 17th to review the applicants, and our job then is going to be to come up with a proposed list of 20 members. And then we are going to present that list to the joint committees at the January 23rd meeting. So, so just to be extra clear, we had told applicants that their stakeholder boxes would not be made public, but that their name and their statement would be made public. So at that January 23rd meeting, we're going to share with you and with everyone the names and the statements of everyone who applied, and then we're going to share our recommendation of the 20 people to be on the search committee for the joint committees to deliberate and decide on the final and vote on the final list of search committee members. So, okay. If you as a school committee member would like to be on the search committee, you need to fill out the form. So just to be clear, if anyone's interested in being on search committee, please go ahead and fill out the form. You can find the form on the ARP's website. Okay. I'm just going to go on, and then I can take questions afterwards. The superintendent job posting was published. It went live last week. I think I linked to it here, and I also emailed it to school committee members. So it's live. We've had 1 applicant already, according to McPherson and Jacobson, so that's great. So it's scheduled to be live for, I believe, 6 weeks, and McPherson and Jacobson will keep us posted on the number of applicants. So the next steps are for McPherson and Jacobson, our executive search firm. They're going to hold a series of stakeholder sessions. So these are sessions for anyone in the community to attend, and at those stakeholder sessions, they ask the same 4 questions at every session. They ask, what's great about living in your area? What's great about your school district? What challenges will the next superintendent face? And what characteristics do you want to see in the next superintendent? So they ask the same 4 questions at all their stakeholder sessions, and then McPherson and Jacobson will provide a written summary that they're going to deliver to the search committee and the joint committees. And so we have a number of sessions planned. We're going to have 2 sessions for employees, and I think we're also going to have 1 session for non-union employees and direct report to the superintendent, separate from employee sessions. We're going to have a session for high school students. I just talked to Mr. Sadiq about this today. In 2 weeks during Flex Block, during one day during Flex Block. And then we're going to have a series of community sessions that are going to be open to anyone. And we're going to publish that list and the schedule hopefully by Friday. Okay, in addition to the stakeholder sessions, there's going to be an online form with those same 4 questions. So if you can't attend one of the sessions, or if you, for whatever reason, you're going to be able to fill out the online form, and that's going to be available in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. That's going to be launched, I think, January 20, towards the end of January, around the same time that the stakeholder sessions are happening. So one thing I'm going to have for agenda planning later is that at our next meeting on January 23rd, I'm going to ask if McPherson and Jacobson can hold a mini stakeholder session with this group so that we can answer those 4 questions, and so that we can have input into that report that will then get delivered back to us, as well as the search committee. That is it. That's all that was on my list. Anyone else on the SNS want to? Sure.
Can I just say thank you so much to Jennifer for the enormous amount of outreach that she has personally done. I did a small amount of outreach, but the amount that Jennifer has done has just been overwhelming, and thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Anna.
Sarah?
Thanks. I have a couple questions. First, who all is on the SNS?
It is myself, Anna, William, and Margaret. And so Margaret is obviously Union 26, and she's not on the regional school committee. And Anna is from Shutesbury, and William is from Pelham, and I'm from Amherst. So the 4 of us do not do not constitute a quorum of any committee. Yeah.
Okay. I know I said I had a couple, and I don't remember. I'm sorry. Something will occur to me, I'm sure.
Well, if you have another one, just let us know. And William?
I was going to ask, the 6 groups where you don't have representation from, do we need to make an effort to reach out to certain groups? Or can you talk about that or not?
Sure, we can. The groups are building principal. So It would be great to have a principal, but I'm not going to ask it. I mean, the principals all know about this opportunity. I'm not going to ask, yeah. Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. So I don't know, we use the census demographic groups, and so that may be one that we have a small representation in our community. We do have at least one person who meets the, again, this is a census group, American Indian or Alaskan Native. We do have one person in that group. So if anyone knows any Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, you can encourage them to sign up. One of the 6 boxes that's not checked is a CPAC member, but I did just today email the CPAC steering committee, and they sent the opportunity to their list, so hopefully we'll get someone from there. A member of UFCW. I did email the UFCW president chair, but then also today I sent another email to like a different UFCW local email address, letting them know about this opportunity. Pelham Elementary employee is one that's not filled, and I've been in touch with the Pelham Elementary office, and again, they do know about the opportunity and they have sent it out. And then a summit parent or guardian. So if anyone knows people who meet one of those 6 categories, you can urge them to fill out the interest form.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sarah?
Came back to me. You said committee members can apply to be on this search committee, which suggests that we're not automatically on it. That's fine. So the reason to apply to be on the committee is that only those members see the resumes of all applicants and then decide whom to bring in for an interview. But the interviews are public, so we could go to the interviews. Is that correct?
Okay. So the search committee will see all of the applicants and will conduct the initial round of interviews. Will those interviews be public? I'm going to say I don't think so at that initial stage, because at that initial stage of application, some of the people who are applying, if they're not a finalist yet, which they're not at that initial interview, they may not want their current district, if they have one, to know that they're applying. So at that stage, those interviews would not be public. But yes, the search committee as a body will view all the applicants. The school, yeah, and I don't think that that information is public at that stage.
I don't think it is either. I agree with
Can I ask a follow-up? If one of these committee members wants to apply, might they be rejected?
It's possible. I mean, we have 20 members is a lot. It's a big committee, and we acknowledge that that's a large committee, but we wanted to be, err on the side of being more inclusive and transparent. I mean, the SNS is going to have to discuss what that's going to look like. We do want at least one representative from each of the 40 categories, and one of the categories is regional school committee or a Union 26 member. So if more than one of us checks that box, yeah, it's possible that we would only have one. I don't know. We'll see. But again, the SNS is going to make a recommendation, and then the joint committees are going to deliberate and discuss. And if at that point, if we want to talk about swapping out, I don't know how that's going to work.
Okay. Deb? Oh, do you have a?
Yeah, what criterion are you going to use to decide who to recommend to the full committee?
That is a really good question. We've never done this before. We didn't know how many people were going to apply, and I think at the time we thought, gosh, if more than 20 people apply, that'll be a good problem to have, and then we'll have to decide how to narrow it down to 20. The SNS is going to have to meet and decide that as a group.
Margaret?
I just want to say that our goal is to have representation from every category, and there will be overlap. So, but there is certainly, with that many applicants, not everybody's going to be on the committee, and I think our job is going to be to make sure that every category is represented if they applied.
So my follow-up question would be, would it be beneficial, what is the wisdom of having one person who serves several of those roles as opposed to 2 separate individuals? Categories, not roles.
We can't have a committee that large.
We can't have 40 people on
No,
the
no,
committee.
no, I'm just saying, so say one person is both member of school committee as well as a member of CPAC. Would that be an advantageous person to have on the committee, or would it be better to have two people represent those two groups separately?
So, I mean, people's identities are intersectional, right? So I think almost everyone checked more than one box.
Right.
So I mean, I think that's a decision that the SNS will have to make when we come up with our recommendation, and also that sorry, I'm thinking about this further. Does it, like, or if you're someone who checked like 6 boxes, are you going to be preferred over someone who checked 2 boxes? I don't think so necessarily, no. So, yeah, I don't know. Is it like, we're going to have to work within the framework of, we have these 40-plus applicants, and we need to narrow it down to 20. We want these 40 groups to be represented, and how it's going to be as much art and science. Yeah, it's going to be tricky, and I think people are probably going to be disappointed. But again, I think this is a really good problem to have, that we have so much demand to be on the committee.
I would recommend lottery and just pulling names out of the hat until all the categories are checked.
Oh,
That's an interesting thought.
I was
like
thinking
that.
doing lottery of each individual one, but I like your idea.
yeah, I
think-
like that.
I think
Thank you.
we can start that way. I think at the end of the day, we're gonna have to do some swapping in order to get the numbers down to 20, because we have 40 categories and 20 positions. And so it's gonna be a mix of lottery and decision-making at the end of the day. I don't wanna promise only lotteries and then have it not work out and then go against our promise and say, oh, I'm sorry, we changed our mind, and make it sound really, inappropriate. I just want to be realistic here and say we'll try our best to make it as random as possible, and then do some fudging to make sure the numbers work out.
To,
Follow up, something.
to avoid that, we have to explain the fudging. You can simply stop the lottery at when you reach more than 20 and restart from scratch. If there is an existing solution, eventually you will have a lottery where you where you have pulled 20 names and you have covered all categories that you have, and you don't have to do any explanation other than saying that it was a lottery.
William?
I was just going to say, whatever process we do decide to use and ultimately go with, we will bring that forth.
will-
We'll bring that forward,
we
and
will,
we'll have that as part of our conversation.
It
When
will
we
absolutely be
present
presented.
the panel, we will tell you how we got to that list.
Yeah.
Jennifer?
Also, just so everyone knows, the SNS as a subcommittee of these joint committees is a public committee and a public body, and anyone can attend the meeting, so you can see how the sausage is made. Because it's going to be, so yeah, I think that's a great idea. We're not promising anything. I think the lottery is a good thing for us to consider.
Sarah?
Once the search committee is established, does SNS continue as an interface between them and the search firm, or does SNS dissolve, or, yeah?
Jennifer?
I think this is our last main job, is to propose a search committee. I'll have to go back and think. Yeah, because then the search committee does their thing, and then once they're finished, then the school committees. So yeah, I think that's the last main thing that the SNS
The
is
search,
going to do.
the search firm did want to contact, right? Is it someone from the SNS, or is it
Yeah.
someone on the
So the-
subcommittee? I mean, on the school committee?
So the search firm has Debbie Westmoreland as their district contact person, and then I've been talking with them about about the things like the posting and communicating with our attorney about the legalities of the posting, things like that. So I've been talking with him about that.
So maybe the SNS should stay intact in case something arises?
Yeah,
But
I
we don't
mean,
think anything else is coming up except for this last task.
right. I think most subcommittees are, ad hoc subcommittees are in place for a year, so I don't think there's any reason to disband the subcommittee.
Margaret?
I think if we're involved after this, it would simply be as a logistical
Right.
move, you know, if they needed assistance with a place to have a meeting or something like that, we might be involved, but I don't think we'll be doing any more of the kind of work we've been doing.
Okay, thank you. Anna?
I think, once the search committee is established, they will appoint a contact person with the search firm, and then they can handle direct communications with the search firm going forward. And so Jennifer or any of us won't have to play that role. It will just be sort of as a backup, just in case something that the search committee doesn't know we can answer maybe or help with, but I don't think, yeah.
Bridget?
Is the SNS going to give a charge to the search committee, or what will the search committee come back with, like one candidate, a group of preferred candidates, et cetera?
Jennifer?
I actually think the joint committees should give the charge to the search committee, so that's another thing we'll want to put on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay. Anything else on that piece? All right, so next up is talking about engaging the collaborative for educational services to hold community sessions.
Thank you. Yeah. So I mentioned stakeholder sessions. So McPherson and Jacobson, part of their job is to hold these stakeholder sessions, which I mentioned, and they asked the same 4 questions. We had the idea to hold a session in Spanish and one in Portuguese, like not in English with interpretation, but actually in Spanish and one in Portuguese. And I talked to one of our contacts at the collaborative as to whether they could do that. They could do that work of putting together the stakeholder session, which McPherson and Jacobson would host it because they're the ones who are asking the questions, but the collaborative could, do outreach to the community, provide a facilitator who speaks that language, and then also provide a translation into English of a report from that session. So they provided a proposal for taking on that project, and if Doug can bring it up, we can look at the proposal. So, so I guess the column you want, the column you want to focus on is the middle column, which is special rate for this engagement. Because we're, our district is a member of the collaborative, and they provide a lot of services to districts, and this is one of the things they're willing to do for us. So, collaboratives, this is a sort of itemized proposal. Collaborative staff planning for meeting with the search firm and the school committee to advertise and recruit for the session. So they're thinking that's 8 hours per staff member for 2 staff members for a total of $2,400. I'll go through this and then I'll explain where this is going. So session facilitation, up to 3 hours per staff member, 6 hours total for 2 consultants. At the very top there, note that it says the fee structure is $150 per hour per consultant. So these totals are their estimate of how much each of these things would take. And then translation services, 2.5 hours per report, and they have that at $700 for a total cost of $4,000. That's a lot. And we have already declined to spend around that amount on a postal mailing, given the amount of money that we're spending on the search firm. And just as a reminder, the search firm, we're going to pay them at most $19,000 for this search. Probably less than that, because that includes travel costs. And we haven't had our search consultants come visit. So I have some ideas about paring this down. So first, I mentioned, backing up. Debbie Westmoreland informed me that when we think about translating our documents and our communication into other languages, typically Spanish and Portuguese are the 2 that they would translate important documents into, which is why we had the search committee form in Spanish and Portuguese. I talked to her today about how many families are Spanish-speaking and Portuguese-speaking in our district, and she responded, really quick, that we have roughly, in the 200s of Spanish-speaking families, 245, and 32 Portuguese-speaking families. And so I don't want to minimize or marginalize our Portuguese-speaking families, but for the cost of holding a session, I'm thinking that we focus on our Spanish-speaking families. And Debbie had mentioned that if a Portuguese-speaking family needs interpretation, and that we can provide an interpreter for one of the general sessions. So I'm just throwing this out there as an idea for the school committees. If we were to engage with the collaborative to hold a Spanish language session, I think essentially this middle column will be cut in half. So if it's the $2,400 will get down to $1,200. For session facilitation, for some reason, they have 3 hours, but I did let them know that McPherson and Jacobson said that these sessions are usually 45 minutes. So, a 45-minute or 1 hour session would be $150 for one person, or, $300 for 2 people if they had 2 facilitators. Around $375 for the one report, for a total of around $1,875 or $2,000 roughly, to engage with the collaborative to plan and hold a Spanish language stakeholder session. So all this is to say, this is the proposal. What do we think? Do we think this is an appropriate, efficient, effective spend? And do we want to think about, discuss, vote on approving it?
Anna?
Of the 240 Spanish-speaking families, are they families that are only Spanish-speaking, and when they interact with the school system, they ask for an interpreter? Or are they families that speak Spanish at home but have halfway decent Spanish skills?
English.
English skills?
I don't know. I only know that Debbie said around 245 Spanish-speaking families, so I don't know if that means they require translation or interpretation.
My experience with another school is that a lot of families who speak Spanish at home also speak English. They just prefer to speak Spanish when they can, or they want their kids to have exposure to Spanish language at home so that they become bilingual. And so it's not that they always need an interpreter, it's that they speak Spanish at home. And so it would be helpful to know how many families would need an interpreter if they came to a general session in English. And I don't know if it's possible to have a session just for Spanish-speaking families with an interpreter rather than holding it in Spanish, that might be more friendly for Spanish-speaking families without costing extra money to do all of the extra translation and services from somebody outside of the system. I'm just trying to think about cost savings, and I don't want to exclude Spanish-speaking families, definitely, but if there's a way to make the cost a little bit lower, without disadvantaging them, it would be good, I guess. I don't want to be exclusive.
Deb? Could you reach out to the Spanish-speaking community, to those 200 families, and ask if it would be advantageous, and find out from them if that would be something that would be worthwhile investing in?
So that's a good question. I mean, certainly one could reach out to 245 families in Spanish, possibly. I can't do that, but we could. That is something we could do. But actually, that's part of what the collaborative would do, is for them to they have relationships in the community, for them to contact the families and talk to them about, because. Sorry, I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone, but if families have in the past felt marginalized or felt like I'm not able to participate, because even if I do speak English, I'm more comfortable speaking Spanish, or I'm not comfortable speaking in a meeting. The collaborative's job is to reach out, and they have those relationships with the families, and the facilitator would be a Spanish-speaking person who is trusted by the community. So they have those relationships already, and that's one of the things we would be engaging with them. That's one of their, one of the things that they do, one of their areas. And I just wanted to respond to Anna. Even if a family, is bilingual, strongly bilingual, English and Spanish, they still could be more comfortable speaking in Spanish. And I think that I think around $2,000 or up to $2,000 is a reasonable amount to pay to really engage with our Spanish-speaking community, and to show that we value and that we're going out of our way to get their opinions.
So I have a question. So I think you mentioned before that we had budgeted $19,000 to work with the
Right.
Jacobs and
McPherson and Jacobson,
Um,
yes.
yes. So, but then I thought I heard you say that we have already had some cost savings from working with them because that included some things for them to come out and
Right.
visit.
Yeah.
And so, are we still under our budgeted dollar figure, including this?
Yeah, that's
I
a
mean-
good question. I wish I had thought to look at that beforehand. I think we're going to come in lower. I mean, their contract said 19,000 is the cap, and that includes travel for the consultants to come here, which they're not going to do. So it's possible that this could be part, like we could not slide it in, but like if we did this, we would still be under 19,000 for the whole shebang.
I think especially if we are not adding any cost to our already budgeted dollar figure,
Right,
then
right.
there's no reason not to do it.
Right.
Sarah?
I wonder whether holding this session in Spanish means that the consultant can do one less of the sessions they are doing.
That's a very good
mean-
point. Yeah, probably. Yeah, but I don't think that we're
to gather the information, I would assume,
well.
because they have to put all the information together
So
to correlate it.
Sorry, so one of the outputs from the collaborative is to write an English language summary. So, because our consultants don't speak Spanish, so they may attend, but they may not. But I don't know that I don't think we're not paying per stakeholder session, and we're not paying them an hourly rate. So I don't know that it necessarily saves us money that there's going to be one session that they don't have to attend.
It ought to.
Tillman?
I think it's a worthwhile experiment. It may completely fail and we learn from that, but the cost is less than 0.01% of the school budget. So I think, we don't have to optimize that necessarily.
Bridget?
I just want to speak in favor of it. I think to start out the search this way by being as openly inclusive of the Spanish-speaking community as possible will increase their relationship with the superintendent as we move forward. And I just support Jennifer's work to also help make it more cost-effective. So I'm in favor.
Okay. William?
Do we have currently district-wide events that occur in Spanish that the district pushes out themselves?
Well, we do have some, around the Comandantes program in Amherst, there's certainly Spanish-specific events. There's often translation that occurs at events, like open house. We generally have multiple translators available to help out and support families as they go through that. So it kind of depends on the particular event and circumstances, but yeah, we do provide that as often as we can.
All right. Jennifer?
I move that we approve the spend of up to $2,000 to engage with the collaborative on developing and holding a Spanish language stakeholder session for the superintendent search.
Second.
Let's see, is that just a region thing? Doesn't have to, is it? Well, I move for the region because I'm not a member of Union 26, so I move for the region.
Perfect. Okay. Discussion? Do you have a
Yes,
question, Sarah?
I do have a question. I wonder if you, friendly amendment to up that amount somewhat, because I'm not sure if it entirely scales.
Great.
So,
I'll take that
I don't
friendly
know.
amendment, up to 2,500?
sure.
All right. So for the region, Sarah?
Sarah, aye.
Nope. Bridget?
Bridget, aye.
Jennifer?
Aye.
William?
William, I.
Anna?
Anna, I.
Deb, aye.
Tillman?
Tillman, I.
Irv? Oh, Irv, we can't hear you. Do you want to give me a thumbs up for aye and a thumbs down for nay?
We can't hear you, Irv.
Oh, shoot. I may have done that to him. I may have muted him unintentionally. Like muted the computer that
The whole
was
thing?
providing the sound. Mostly because it was doing this.
I will vote Sarah Best aye. While we
All right, can you hear me?
Yay, yes. How do you vote,
All right.
Irv?
All right. So actually, I've been trying to be recognized because we do not know where this money is going to come from. Is it going to come out of the fiscal 24 budget or the fiscal 25 budget? And no one has said where it's going to come from, what impact it is going to have. This fiscal year, fiscal 24, that we're already in, we already know there's this tough situation. And if it's fiscal 25, we already know that we are going to have a very tough time. So who is going to say, hey, look, we can't have something in relationship to the region because we have made this a priority without determining the impact and where this money is coming from. So no, I vote no.
You vote
And
no.
I wanted to say that before we got to this point, but I couldn't get in.
I apologize, Irv. Okay, so we are 8 in favor, 1 against, 0 abstentions for the region. Margaret?
For Union 26, I would like to put forward the identical motion.
I second.
Irv, it's up to you to call for Union 26.
More discussion.
All right, since Union 26 is, I thought we had adjourned Union 26, but I guess we haven't. All right, so we're, for Union 26, someone has made a motion and it has been properly second. Well, I will make a roll call vote on this in terms of Union 26. As I've stated, from my position is, I do not wish to do this, so I'm voting no. And the next one is Bridget.
Bridget, aye.
Sarah Marshall.
Aye.
Sarah Best.
Aye.
William.
William, I.
Margaret.
Margaret, aye.
Ayes have it.
Thank you.
I move to adjourn Union 26.
I second.
So all those in favor, in terms of adjourning Union 26, we'll have a roll call. Bridget,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Sarah Best,
Aye.
William,
William, I.
Margaret,
Margaret, aye.
me, aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
See you all again.
Thanks, Margaret.
Okay, so did we have? I don't think so. Okay, so our first just region topic, we do not have minutes to approve, so we will go on to public comment. There's anyone in the public that would like to make public comment, come up and have 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yes.
Hi, my name is, Am I supposed to do anything in particular?
Just
Sorry. My
Talk
name's
right into the
Kara.
microphone and what your name is and
I'm a
how you are.
Shutesbury
Yep,
resident.
perfect.
I am a parent to a ninth grader here at the high school who is transgender and endured persistent anti-trans bullying and harassment throughout his time at the middle school. Sorry, this is really hard. I don't want to be here to say this. I placed great faith in the district to take seriously concerns that we raised, to follow through on action items that were promised. And I recently, over the weekend, received the notice that a new leader was chosen to become interim principal at the middle school. And that person is Letha Gale Brissett, who oversaw the restorative justice program at the middle school when Lee was there. Sorry, this is hard. Letha Gale Brissett, Dr. Gale Brissett, was our main point person throughout our 2 years at ARMS for dealing with the bias-related bullying and harassment that Lee experienced. It was not only was it not a helpful experience, her interventions, her lack of understanding and familiarity with gender identity issues and gender-affirming practice further exacerbated the harm done to our child. It's taken time. Our focus over the last 2 years was really making sure Lee survived and really made it through. And it's taken time to really understand the full breadth of what happened and the role that those interactions had on harming Lee, and the restorative justice practices that placed him in rooms with the bullying students who, repeatedly used anti-trans slurs, dead-named him, outed him in front of other students, made it impossible for him to use the bathroom at school repeatedly throughout his time there. And Lee was consistently brought these issues to Dr. Gale Brissett, and she handled them through restorative justice, as was her role, but she handled them by further traumatizing Lee, by having him face this person, and by focusing the attention on the bullying student, that Lee should be more patient, that Lee should be more understanding, that people are still learning, that these issues are new to a lot of people, rather than the harm, the real harm. I don't think that she meant my child any harm. I'm quite sure that she wanted the best for my child. But her lack of familiarity with the impact of some of the things that she would say, is that 3 minutes? All right, can Lee be another? Lee wanted to just share. So anyway, so I guess 2 things I want to say. I think this is the wrong choice. Everybody I know can grow and learn, but I think we need a leader right now for the school who's well-versed in supporting LGBTQ youth, well-versed in gender identity issues, and well-versed in gender-affirming practice. And in our experience, that was not Dr. Gale Brissett. And the other piece I do ask, which is in the purview of the school committee, is that you call for an examination of the ways in which restorative justice was used to address bias-related bullying and harassment, and ensure that it aligns with best practices, and that what role it plays in the reporting of these types of incidents. So, do you want to say anything?
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Lee. I just wanted to say that, like what my mom was talking about, there was a lot of stuff that happened at the middle school that wasn't the best. That wasn't very good, and I was always told to go to Dr. GB, and I would, like, my teacher, staff, and herself. And when I would go there, and tell her everything that would happen, like all the different things, it kind of felt like she wasn't listening, and not just not listening, but like when I would tell her things, it felt like her reaction was more about like like my mom was saying, like me understanding, rather than when I would tell other adults, like my teachers and stuff, they'd be like, "Oh, Lee, I'm so sorry. I can't believe that happened to you." And it just made everything feel so much worse. And it felt like I kept hoping for someone to do something, for her to do something, but it would like never happen. Almost every time something would happen, I would go to her, leave my class and whatever, and it just felt like nothing happened, and that it did feel like she didn't care. And I'm not saying that that's how she felt at all, because I don't know how she felt, but that's how it made me. That's how it made me feel. But yeah. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
And more details of what the experience we shared with superintendent, interim superintendent Slaughter.
Hello. My name's Mick O'Connor. I am an educator at Amherst Regional Middle School. And I am here to state that I have known Letha Gale Brissett for 2.5 years as a parent, as a colleague, as an educator. And I want to speak to the utmost integrity that she has exhibited as a staff member, as a colleague, her open-mindedness and open-heartedness, her commitment to the well-being of all students of all identities, and providing ways to augment the voices of all students and students of all identities. And I would hope that any public statements related to her work in the building are grounded in evidence-based and factual statements. Not to say that the previous speaker and Lee and Lee's mom are not doing that, right? I do want to say that I value the lived experience that they shared here, and I have complete empathy with them and their experiences. But I would like to reaffirm the integrity of Dr. Gale Brissett. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. First, I just want to, address Lee and Cora, just to let you know that.
Excuse me, who are you?
I am Letha Gale Brissett, yes. Just to let you know.
Point of order. I'm sorry, Dr. GB. I believe public comments are supposed to be addressed to the chair.
Okay.
I'll let you, I'll shut up, but.
Thank you. Just to let you know that my work or whatever I do was for your best interest and nothing else, okay? So I started working at ARMS Regional Middle School in 2021-22. I work as a restorative justice coordinator. I have a PhD in education and have worked in the Caribbean as well as US, Amherst College, UMass, to name a few. I took this position at ARMS not because I was desperate for a job, but because the responsibilities of the positions are consistent with my social justice training and personal values. The restorative justice position is designed to support students and staff and provide less punitive approaches to responding to behavioral challenges and resolve conflict in sustainable ways. I have dedicated myself to the welfare of students and staff without prejudice. I take particular care with LGBTQI students because I know kids at this stage are at the most vulnerable and impressionable in their identity construction, especially regarding gender sexuality development. An example of my work in this area, in addition to my work one-on-one with students, I have written lessons for teachers to use in advisory to teach gender identity issues. As a member of the marginalized community, myself as a trained professional, I have undertaken the role with utmost care, professionalism, and empathy. Throughout this time, I have gained the respect and trust of students and staff on a daily basis, express their regard for my work and with them and impact on the school generally. So this is also really very hard for me when I see that I give everything on a daily basis. It comes therefore as a great surprise and disappointment that the parent of one of the students who is a member of the LGBTQI community have written to the superintendent and school community with some categorically false and professionally damaging allegation that I engage in anti-trans behavior towards their child. Let me be clear, these allegations are false, clearly false. Also, the way in which restorative justice is described in this allegation is not a true representation of how RJ is conducted. As many of you know, there have been some unfortunate anti-LGBTQIA problems in our school. Several extensive investigations have conducted and the results made public. The results and the articles found absolutely no evidence that I was part of the conduct and that I was exclusionary towards any LGBTQIA member in our community. On the contrary, I was a source of support and refuge for LGBTQIA students. It cannot be coincident that these allegations are emerging at a time when I was offered the position of interim principal. There have been whispers that some members in the middle school community are intent on removing people of color, especially black people, from leadership positions. It is not unreasonable to believe that these false claims are part of this agenda. It is unfortunate that what is such an important social justice issue for our time. Can I just finish? Okay, I will leave it to my husband so she can finish.
Can use my time and finish.
Okay, thank you. That,
Point of order.
yes,
A member of the public cannot assign their time to another member of the public for longer speech by policy BEDH. The chair can choose to extend the time if they choose so.
May I ask
30
officially that you
seconds.
extend the time tonight?
Yes, we've had other people go over to finish their thought
Okay,
in 2
thank you.
sentences.
It's really quick. So it's unfortunate that such a very, very important issue, social justice issue or time, LGBTQI issue, that is inclusion and the justice for our LGBTQI community is being weaponized for the people who are supporting students who really need the support in our building. It is unfairly damaging my reputation. I take this very seriously and of course will exhaust whatever means, legal avenues if necessary, to ensure that my reputation is not tarnished and that everyone involved in these false damaging allegations are accountable. I have worked hard, very hard as a black immigrant woman in this country to build my professional reputation and I will not allow anyone to destroy it. We have had very difficult year in the middle school, I will say. I have been part of the solution, not the problem. And I will continue to be part of the solution. I will leave you with this last one point. Over the past decade, the middle school has not been able to sustain any form of principal leadership for any period, extended period. It is time for the school community and the public to investigate why a very small group of individuals in the middle school is so invested in administrative chaos that characterizes this middle school right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Georgia Malcolm, and I'm the administrative assistant at the high school. I've worked in the district for 10 years, and Letha Brissett is a friend of mine. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt that she's a woman of integrity. But the school committee has a problem on their hands. There is I know we're focusing on the LGBTQ issue, but there's a problem with blacks in this school. I mean, everyone is targeted. I spoke to Doug last week, and I told him I'm going to seek legal counsel because my name is being mischaracterized by people in the district who are in HR department. And I'm like, I'm not going to tolerate it. I'm sure you guys are probably tired of getting emails from me, but, I'm trying to bring to attention the things that are happening because you guys are in position of power, and I really don't think you realize how much power you have. And it's really painful. We work in the school. I came to work last week. I took off 3 days because of just the stress that this place brings on. And it's really sad, you know, I'm gonna be honest, when Letha told me, I told her not to take it. I told her, I said, walk away. I told her to walk away because I didn't know it was gonna happen so quickly. But it's really sad. Amherst is racist, the staff is racist, and there's a target on the back of black people in the district. And I realize right now the focus is LGBTQ, but it's problematic.
Thank you.
May I speak at all? I won't be long, so I won't even sit. Well, I guess I'm just going to reiterate what my wife said. I'm just going to reiterate what my wife said. My name is Nigel Brissett, and for clarity, I'm the husband of Letha Gale Brissett. Both of us came here several years ago, and we started our doctoral program. We completed, we have moved on to different careers. I'm a professor at another university. She has worked in higher education extensively. She has a lot of experience. She knows what she's doing. She's empathetic. She lives the job. She's not desperate for a position, as she mentioned. She took this job because it aligned with what she wants to do, how she feels, and her training. She has worked hard. We have worked hard to build our reputation as professionals, right? And to now see her reputation being tarnished by people within the school system who do not like her equity approach and inclusive approach to her work. It's amazing that this is being weaponized and being used against her. And I can tell you this categorically, and I won't say much beyond this. We will explore every and any legal means necessary to clear my wife's name, because these allegations are false. And many of you know this, and it's time you do something about this middle school. This is becoming a joke, right? And again, my wife will not become unemployable by whatever means, legal means necessary. We will address this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public here? Okay, I have 3 voicemails.
Hello, this is a public comment for the Amherst-Pelham Regional School District. My name is Melissa Yates, and I'm a parent of an elementary school child in the district. I've been deeply concerned about the bullying, harassment, and lack of consistent and clear support for LGBTQ+ students at Amherst Regional Middle School, and I want to focus on what I think are opportunities for immediate repair within the school community and the wider families affiliated with the district, namely improving bully reporting systems and revisiting blind hiring practices. My first comment has to do with reports of bullying. The process by which students or family members can report incidents of bullying is and has been significantly hampered by technical problems with the way such reports are collected. The system through which the school district collects reports routinely faces issues that make it impossible for students or families to actually submit them. This, paired with very little communication with families about how to report such issues or what to do when the system fails, should be a top priority at the middle school and elsewhere in the district, particularly when we've now seen that incidents of bullying and harassment were badly mishandled by several staff, as noted in the Title IX investigative report. We need the systems by which students and families can report incidents of bullying to be easy to use and quickly responded to. My second comment has to do with the blind hiring processes set up by Doreen Cunningham, which also appear to still be in place this year for a number of important positions. I want to focus on the way that blind hiring is implemented and not the background principles that would defend the practice, at least in theory. Blind hiring is designed to mitigate bias in the hiring process by sequestering the interviewers from the resumes of candidates. But in practice, this investigative report describes several complaints about how this process is actually implemented in our school district. First, according to Mitnick's report, many staff have raised concerns about this hiring process. Staff report that when they've raised questions about blind hiring practices, that they've been accused of racism, effectively shutting them down and creating fear of retaliation. A credible fear, given that the investigative report also found that sufficient credible evidence exists that a staff member did actually suffer from retaliatory conduct when they complained about inappropriate behavior exhibited by another staff member toward LGBTQ+ students. I think the school district should very carefully consider the role of the hiring process itself in cultivating a culture among the staff where they fear retaliation for any criticism of something as fundamental and vital as the process by which we hire staff working with our children. I'd like to encourage the school district to inquire about whether this hiring process should still have the confidence of the district, and several questions that I think would help address these concerns, or at least help improve the implementation of this process. Are first, how many people should be serving on a subcommittee?
Hello, my name is Megan McCara. I live in Amherst, and I'm directing this comment to the Regional School Committee. Our family is new to the district. I currently have 3 kids in the district, one at Fort River Elementary, one at the middle school, and one at the high school. First, to say the good things that we've experienced so far really is about the teachers at each school, ones that stand out. At Fort River, Mrs. Paul for my son. At the high school, Miss Lewis, English teacher, and the coaches of the Alpine ski team that have really been so wonderful and supportive, Coach House, Davis, and Lutz. And then at the middle school, especially Mr. Hunter for math and Miss Lawler for science for my son. Definitely his favorite teachers. Which brings me to why I'm calling. We found out only from my son that Miss Lawler hasn't been there. They've had a sub for don't know how long, because again, I've only heard from him more recently that they've had a sub, and that Miss Lawler has been absent. We have received no communication from the school. This is at least over a month that it's been going on, and I'm really concerned, as are many parents. Like I said, it's one of his favorite teachers. He enjoyed science. They are not doing science, as he says right now. They're watching some videos. He complains about this. My son complains about this. He's not getting the science education he deserves from a teacher, a qualified, well-loved, excellent teacher. And again, we have not heard anything from the school, even when reaching out. So we don't know. Can't base that off of anything except for rumors from students or other parents. I have heard that there was that she might have been put on leave or fired. Some investigation not substantiate any kind of claims. I don't know. Again, because there is no communication. So that is the problem. We would like to keep going on. What are the plans for our kids' education? We want Ms. Lawler back, if that is true, as soon, immediately. And we want the science education that our kids deserve. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.
And last one.
Hi, my name is Claire Coco, and I live in Amherst. I teach history at the high school in Amherst. First of all, I want to say thank you to our school committee members for serving this community. And the reason I am making a public comment is I noticed that the contract for the educators in this district has yet to be finalized. It was ratified this past summer of 2023 by the APEA union, and it has yet to be finalized. My understanding is that the district is the party that has not finalized the contract. if you go on to the ARP's website and look on their employee page for employee contracts, you'll see that the most recent one is dated 2018 to 2021. I don't really think this is a very good look for the district, for people who are looking to seek employment in the district. They want to see the contract, the most updated contract, and also, of course, for current employees, we need to be able to reference the most updated agreements. So I'm asking the school committee members to please look into this and please seek why it is that we're in January 2024 and I still am not able, if I wish, to look at the wording of our current contract. Thank you.
Okay. Do you scroll through the?
Yes. So, is it visible? Let me know when I need to scroll. So, Superintendent's update. Just a couple things. I won't speak to personnel matters, and again, I would remind the school committee it's not within your purview, and it's a difficult circumstance when we have personnel matters come before the committee because it makes things public that are, often not well done in a public setting like this. So I just struggle with that. I'm not to say that people shouldn't advocate for their point of view and to bring forward things they feel are of concern. That's absolutely fine. I think there are a number of mechanisms and avenues in which we deal with personnel matters. The difficulty in doing it in a public setting is not to say that you as a committee aren't necessarily, you don't explicitly have control of personnel matters, but you do direct me and my position is very much a public one, and so, personal critiques of me are certainly germane to school committee review and comment from folks. It's just difficult in circumstances, and that's not to diminish anyone's point of view or their need to express and share that information and their point of view. I don't want to diminish that in any way, shape, or form. And there are, however, mechanisms internally that we use to review and work through any questions or problems that arise relative to personnel questions. So that's one thing I just want to generally state. And again, not an indictment or a diminishment of anyone's point of view or ability to speak freely in the public realm, but there's a reason why school committees are not empowered with personnel responsibility other than the superintendent. Because I think that it creates an unfortunate circumstance where it's difficult to properly evaluate those things that are being said by either side. So I think that's unfortunate in that way. But speaking of personnel, middle school, we've just posted, I believe it's today, the middle school principal position and the student services director position. Those two have gone on to School Spring. We'll do a much more extensive continuing rollout of those searches for the start of the new fiscal year. So I would advise folks to keep an eye out for outreach that we have for participation in those processes, both you as school committee members, but also the broader public. There are other positions that are coming up as well, but those we've gotten at least initially started, and like I said, there'll be some more additional outreach and process. These are very public-facing roles, and so we do have and have had in the past with principal searches and also with student services director, opportunities for the community to be participating and stakeholders, et cetera, et cetera. We will seek that feedback and input from all of those groups as we go through the process. I think there's something else that I want to make sure to mention. I think it's just the other thing is there's a number of items that are going to be coming up over the course of the next few months. And so I want to encourage both you as members of the committee as well as the broader community, and that's both internally with staff and externally with families, to keep an eye out on the variety of things we'll be reaching out for input on and feedback on and participation in. There are things that are logistical, like transportation issues around the Fort River School construction that's going to start pretty soon. That'll impact folks at all levels of the community, but also more pragmatic things like superintendent search, middle school principal search, student services director search. Those positions. We'll have ongoing conversations about sixth grade move to the middle school. And of course the budget's going to be over the next couple of months a very high level of focus on that, and wanting and seeking engagement and feedback from the community on those topics as well. So I think there's a lot of things coming up, and I want to make sure that people do come and participate and keep an eye out for things and opportunities to connect and participate in those processes, because we want that feedback and that input from all those different communities and stakeholders. I think with that, I'll answer any questions people have.
Tillman?
In the public comments, somebody asked about a contract that wasn't fully processed yet. I wanted to know what.
So in the process of negotiations, we generally get to a place where we have specific items, and that's turned into what's called a memorandum of agreement, and then that is voted on by membership and by you guys and signed. That's a formal completion of the negotiation process. That then gets folded into a much larger document that hadn't been done in probably at least 2 cycles of contract, which is part of why it was a bigger edit of the document. That's part of the delay, and I think, I'll have to double check my email, I think that the review of that, I'm hoping, because it was supposed to go today, so I'm hoping that it went to the union today.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
So Doug, you mentioned that the middle school principal job posting is posted?
Yes.
And previously you had shared with us the search process, which included a search committee. Has the search committee been seated?
No, not at all. Literally the posting went up. I think it went today. I'd have to, again, check my email. I know the student services one did. I think the middle school one did as well. I'd have to double check to see that it did. I was actually having conversations with some of the folks in HR today about that and the process. I've also had conversations around the general process. So back to one of the public comments around process, I've been talking, we were having conversations even today with HR personnel and some of the central office staff around the needs around that process and fidelity to the process and clarity around how it works. So I think we'll be having much more of that be a part of some of the messaging too, as far as encouraging people to participate, but also sort of what are the components and processes that we'll be going through. So that'll be coming.
As a follow-up question, will the Director of Student Services search be the same process as the middle school principal search in terms of a search committee and that process?
There'll be a lot of parallels. It's a little different, just the nature of the work because it's central office. There isn't that sort of specific group of the building faculty and staff. It's a broader interaction with a broader group of the community. So how we do it, so when they interact with like faculty and staff, how we do that in a way that's meaningful and is one I don't know exactly how that's going to look. It's been about a dozen years since we've done this, so it's been a while. But I think the parallel of seeking feedback and input from those different communities, like faculty and staff, broader community, internal staff, central office, all of those are going to be part and parcel of it. So it'll have some parallels. It won't be quite exactly the same, I'm sure, but close in some ways.
William?
As the LGBTQI parents group that was started and the bullying report and all that falls under student services, will we, as a queer person, be able to be on a committee, or will that community be included to help figure out who is going to be in charge of student services, since it is, from my understanding, they're kind of over the LGBTQI bullying issues and stuff, and they're over the mental health. New person that we have now, Maureen Fleming, I believe that's who she directly reports to. So what will your outreach be to the LGBTQ community in as far as finding the next student support personnel?
Yeah. So I think that's, not that we wouldn't have, but it's certainly great to have that specific feedback as far as how we go about it. I think that's, still to be a little developed as far as how we reach out to different stakeholder communities, because obviously, one of the big chunks of the work is around special education, so engagement with that CPAC committee and that community is a critical part, but obviously, like you say, there's a ton of mental health, other support services for students, nursing is a piece of that puzzle too. So there's a lot of different constituencies, and we definitely want and need that input from those. So I think that's going to be our challenge, is to, it's a similar sort of thing when you were talking earlier around having this broad spectrum of people you want to put on a 20-person committee. How do we select the right group of 20 to do that search? There's that similar aspect in this kind of position because of the nature and the breadth of the work that they do. So we're definitely going to try to take that into account as best we can as we go through this. And I appreciate that input as we start to formalize those plans.
Anna?
So, one thing that's become clearer to me after listening to a lot of feedback from the community is that there's a race problem in Amherst, and it's not being, I think, the LGBTQ issue has sort of overtaken conversations about other things, but it seems clear that there is some work to be done in the Amherst community or the regional district community to make everyone feel welcome and valued and not targeted either for being a minority or for talking to minorities. And so, we don't want white people shamed, and we don't want black people discriminated against. We want people to be able to communicate with each other as people and not as races. And I think we need to have a larger discussion about what needs to happen to start healing some of these divisions. And I don't know if you have any plans to start thinking about that.
I think that there's, there's certainly in short answer is yes. And so one of the things we're doing this year is a project called the Mirror Project. And one of the ideas with that is to reach to these different communities and have conversations about what's really sort of points of conflict. And this is more an internal conversation amongst staff. Because I think there's a fair amount, not explicitly in the middle school, but in other places in our district as well, that we've been, working toward a richer and more diverse community of staff. And, part of the puzzle is then once you have that diversity of staff, how do then we interact in a way that is, meaningful and respectful and builds understanding and creates inclusivity. So it's one thing to be there, it's another thing to feel welcome there. And so there's some conversations going on. Actually, I'm going to meet with the person that's sort of leading that on Friday and talk about their place at the moment. But I think it's a lot more work we can do in that area, and I think that's sort of when you sort of begin reading about sort of DEI, there's sort of we want to get there's the getting people in the door, and then there's the sort of creating a richness of that experience once they're there. And I think that's an area where we and many other places are sort of struggling to find what's the right way to do that, and how do we do that in a meaningful way, let people preserve their culture and identity in the right way, and at the same time be open, welcoming, and supportive of everyone in all those points of view. There's a lot to be done there. So we've got a little bit going on at the present time. I think that's going to be one of those things too, where it's a longer range. We'll hopefully learn some good things this year with some of the work we're doing. And I think that's it's another piece of the puzzle of what played out over the last 8 months or so. Is some of that came to the surface in some ways that it hadn't previously and differently, and it created some intersectionality of groups that was complex and difficult to hear. So I think we're gonna chip away at it now and continue to do that. And I think it's a great set of questions to ask a potential superintendent candidate about how they might approach some of this as well.
Is that Irv raising his hand?
That's me.
Oh, sorry.
So after listening to some of the public comments and then listening to what Anna just said, it's really extraordinary to me that after all of these years, the amount of effort that has gone into not only DEI, but also the outreach and recruiting of BIPOC candidates, and also what Doug just touched upon in terms of not only bringing BIPOC candidates through the door, but having programs that would include having them stay and be a part of our community. It is painful to me. And when I hear that there is continued racism in Amherst, in the Amherst school system, that people of color do not feel welcome. It is painful to hear parents, students, faculty, staff members say that racism is persistent in our system. Obviously, if those kinds of feelings are out there, there must be a way of tapping into it. But because even in the reports that were done, the Title IX and non-Title IX investigative report, there were accusations of reverse racism. So we have some work to do. And it's not just for the staff to do. but it's also for the school committee in terms of its policy to be proactive in this and not reactive.
Sarah?
Doug, you mentioned the budget as part of our upcoming business. When do we start hearing about that? And what is, can you give an idea of the schedule, how that rolls out?
Yeah, so Regional School Committee, I'll speak just to that series of events. So the budget, the first draft of the budget in full form, you know, at the Four Towns meeting, which happened in early December, we gave you a bit of a sketch of where we were. You meet on the 23rd, we'll have a full version of the budget. It's still, the governor's budget comes out, I think the 24th is the schedule, which is, you know, which probably won't have a major impact. There's a few things. What's actually going to be another piece of information that we'll get hopefully later that week or early the next week is health insurance. So anyway, those will be pieces of the puzzle there that are unknown in a significant way on the 23rd. In the second meeting in February, which I'm not going to guess the date off the top of my head, but the second meeting in February, we'll actually do the budget hearing, which is where you know, the budget will be hopefully brought to close to balance or balance, and we'll be seeking input and commentary by the public because it's a form is a requirement. And then in March will be the actual vote. And part of the reason why it's in March is because there are town meeting deadlines, and you have to have the budget to the towns in sufficient time for them to have it onto their town meeting warrants. Amherst Town Council has a deadline of April 1st to the town manager. Manager has to have the budget to the town council by May 1st, and then they vote the budget officially in June. The town meetings occur late April, early May, when the regional budget will be taken up at that time. The assessment method will also be a part of that. And we use and have used a non-statutory method, so a variation of the statutory method. Because of that, it has to get approved every year. And so that's a part of that process as well. But that's roughly the timeline. Obviously, there'll be lots of conversations in between. As was noted at the Four Towns meeting, the current projection of sort of available resources versus what level services looks like. We have a pretty significant deficit that we have to close, and that can be any number of things. Some of it there'll be a small amount of ESSER money. We've factored in what we know, but we'll refine that over the next few weeks. To see if there's any additional ESSER funds that are going to carry us into fiscal 25. We'll look at, you know, any other sources of funds like that. We'll look at our expenses and try to go through those. And there'll be some you know, significant restructuring that we're going to have to do, and we're going to have to think through. And so those are going to be conversations that they're going to be happening in the next few weeks with our administrative staff and our principals and quite frankly everybody else. To see how we structure that and what are our choices and what are our trade-offs and what are our values around what we preserve and what we have to hold on to be functional and what we are able to afford to offer. So I think it's going to be you know, it's going to be a difficult year as far as the budget is concerned, and we're going to have to make some tricky choices. We don't have any, you know, sort of large drops in enrollment or surprise funding sources or that sort of thing that are going to really kind of bail us out in any significant way. So, you know, I think there are districts that might be in a much worse shape than we are. We've been fairly cautious with our ESSER spending, so we actually have some of that available, or it would be a much more painful process. We'll have to then solve that problem in fiscal 26, but, you know, we're tapering to a finish with regard to that funding. So it's going to be tricky, and I think we're going to have to think deeply about what is, you know, critical and core to our organization and our offering of programs and studies, and whether that means we have different conversations with our communities and the funding levels, and you know, all those things are part and parcel of that.
Jennifer?
Doug, can you tell us the status of backfilling the middle school science teacher position and communicating that to the families of impacted students?
Yeah, there are currently a couple of staff that we've hired that have science backgrounds that are working into that role. One of them started before the break. Second person is starting last week. And I think communication regarding that, I was actually sending an email today and connecting with our curriculum director on that topic. And so she's working through how to frame and articulate that message. So hopefully it'll be out soon. It's unfortunate it's taken a while to find the right fit of folks, and then how to articulate that into a message for folks. So it's unfortunate we haven't been able to communicate better with families around that, but hopefully very soon we'll be able to get to that.
So there's going to be one or two people backfilling that position?
So there's two people filling in that role in sort of a co-teaching model, I believe, but I'm going to be over my skis here to borrow an expression, pretty quickly, because I haven't delved into the nitty-gritty of that level, but it is a couple different folks that are going to be working in that regard.
William?
What's the status of the background checks and fingerprinting? Is that finally completed?
Oh, you would ask that question. And I'm thankful that you did, because I meant to close the loop on that. It's very, very close to being absolutely done. I actually have to report back to the state on that as well. It's down to very low numbers. I think even a month ago it was down to a few dozen, like a couple dozen, that kind of thing. It's really down to a small number. I got to check on that. I think it was, I just haven't crossed my mind in the last day or two to ask that question, but thank you for that. I'll double check. It's really, really close to getting close, and it's more logistics than it is, people like avoiding it or anything. It's more about just kind of, finding the right people with the right time to say, hey, we got to do this kind of thing, and kind of make that less a little bit. The query check, which is the sort of baseline, is very, very easy to do. It's fill out a form, copy your license. It's pretty straightforward. That one's a really fairly easy one to do. It doesn't cost anything. The fingerprinting's a little more involved. Now, it is available in Hadley now, so it's a lot easier than it used to be. It used to be you had to go to either Springfield or Greenfield to do it, in, I will admit, the most sketchy places ever to be giving up your fingerprint, because I did it a number of years ago. So nonetheless, I think they do it in Staples in Hadley. So I mean, you still have to go, and you have to have the right ID and stuff and that sort of thing. And it's not free, and that's the other thing. And so we're trying to support people that need that kind of support if necessary. But I think we're really, really pretty close. But I'll check and send a note out to everybody.
Anna?
So I think I'd like to get a better understanding of the restorative justice program at the middle school, and maybe if it's the same at the high school. It's not 100% clear to me exactly what the restorative justice program's strategies are, and it's clear that at least some students don't feel restored by the program. And so I don't know what best practices are in restorative justice, and I don't know how restorative justice should be modified to accommodate one type of complaint versus another type of complaint. And I think it would be really helpful to have a better understanding of what that process is, and to maybe get some understanding of why it's not working in some instances for some people, and what the program could do better to meet the needs of everyone involved. I think no program works for every single person, and I think that you have to do the best that you can, but I think that also understanding failures and trying to do your best to address those failures is something that is part of an academic environment, and I just would like a better understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Is that right if I reply?
Yeah, no, I also think that that's probably a good future agenda item
Yeah.
thing,
Okay.
rather than
Yeah. I'll give a short reply, but yes is the short answer. Is like absolutely, and I think that it is restorative justice is difficult to do well. It doesn't fit all circumstances, and it's it's difficult to do well with adults and even harder with kids, I think, in a lot of ways, because it's also a process that requires a preparedness of the folks that's hard to judge, I think. That's, you know, and this is really layperson talking about this, so please discount what I'm saying a little bit. But I think that, yeah, to kind of come back and talk through that a little bit, and I think how it's been done at the secondary level and at the middle school versus the high school are different. And I don't know why so much. It may be good, it may be bad, I don't know. There are some differences in how it's been broadly, you know, and I think I think there's a lot of places and cases where it's worked really well, and I think it's one of the tools with regard to sort of disciplined behavior, and it's not, and that can be a powerful tool, and it's, like I said, it's tricky to implement well, and so I think it's you know, it's an area that we have to spend time, just like discipline and curriculum and other things. It's a continuous cycle of improvement that you have to work on.
Deb?
As a future agenda item, could we contextualize that with other tools available to educators for conflict or resolution within the school system?
I think we can add that to our, when we talk about,
Yeah.
when we agenda item ourselves. All right. Any other final questions for Doug before moving on? Excellent. I do not have a chair's update. Any school committee announcements? Jennifer?
Just two things regarding the superintendent search that I wanted to bring to the public's attention. The opportunity to serve on the search committee. You can fill out a form indicating your interest in serving on the search committee. You can find that form on the ARPS website. It's arps.org/supt, S-U-P-T, search. arps.org/SUPT search. And then also keep an eye out in your emails and other communication venues for a series of stakeholder sessions at which you can give input as to what you'd like to see, what the characteristics are you'd like to see in the next superintendent. They're going to be held the week of January 15th and the week of January 22nd. There will be a series of sessions. They will mostly be virtual, and there will be one in-person session, so keep an eye out for an announcement about those.
Any other announcements? Excellent. All right. You're up there.
Since we're reorganizing tonight. So the regional school committee, because there's 3 new members from Amherst, is also in a place to do some reorganization. And so again, I will go through the process of the election of a chair, and once the chair is elected, then they can lead the process of a vice chair and, is there a secretary? No, just a vice chair, and then go into subcommittee assignments. So at this point, I would take nominations for a chair.
I would like to nominate Sarah Bess.
All right, so we have a nomination for Sarah Bess. Who was next?
I was also going to nominate Sarah Bess, so I'm all set.
Okay. So, Bridget.
I'd like to nominate William Scher.
Are there other nominations? Are the 2 candidates willing to serve if elected?
Yes.
I'll say yes.
Okay. If there's no further, is there any further discussion about the candidates? Does anyone want to offer commentary or suggestion relative to the candidates? Go ahead.
So I put forward the nomination of William Scher. I think that we still have so much work to do in the district in regard to the culture of robust inclusion in the schools for LGBTQ youth. And I think that the racism question is a big one, but again, today we're in the paper about this particular issue. For the benefit of our district, for the trust of our community, I feel that representation is really important in this moment, and to have someone at the fore in that way, to have their voice at the table when these issues come to bear can, I think, help us to guide the ship in a stronger and more supportive way. So I'd really like you all to consider William.
Other comments? William?
I nominated Sarah Best because having worked with her over the past 2 years, I've observed her work ethic. She's always prepared, and she does a lot of things in the background that adds to the quality not only of the meetings, but also of our way of dealing with the issues that come before us. And I think she's a solid person.
Thank you. Tillman, did you want to offer?
I concur with her.
Other comments? If not, then we'll do a roll call vote. I'll start with Irv.
Aye.
Well, you got to pick one.
I'm sorry. Aye for Sarah.
Thank you.
Sarah Best, I mean.
Yep. Sarah Bess.
I will vote for myself, I guess.
Okay. Tillman.
Sarah Best.
Deb.
Deb, Sarah Beth.
Anna.
It's tough.
You can abstain. That's always an option.
I'll vote for William.
Okay. William.
I'll vote for myself, William.
Okay. Jennifer.
William.
Bridget.
William.
Sarah.
I'll vote for Sarah Best.
Okay. So it's 5-4 for Sarah Bess. You have a new chair, retained chair. So Sarah Bess.
Nominations for vice chair. Jennifer,
I nominate William for vice chair.
are there any other nominations?
I would
Sarah?
nominate Irv Rhodes.
Are there any other nominations? Anna?
I nominate Jennifer.
Any other nominations? All right, so would you accept Jennifer, would you accept a nomination?
I am going to decline. Thank you, Anna. I want to focus on making the superintendent search as robust and transparent and inclusive as possible, and that's going to be my focus. Thank you, though.
Irv, would you accept a nomination?
I will accept your nomination.
And William, would you accept the nomination?
Yes.
All right. All right. Are there any statements or discussion anyone would like to make? Anna?
I think for all the reasons that Bridget named before, it's still relevant for this position.
Thank you.
Yeah. I have known Irv longer than I've known William. Maybe that's all. But I really value his experience and wisdom on our very weighty matters. So I urge his candidacy.
Tillman?
I want to note that Irv has already a leadership role on Union 26, which is a big overlap with our committee, and in the interest of diversifying our leadership, I'm going to vote for William.
Any other comments to be made? Okay, so we will now vote for our vice chair. Tillman?
William.
Deb?
Deb, William.
Anna?
Anna William.
William?
William.
Jennifer?
William.
Bridget?
William.
Sarah?
Sarah Irv.
Irv?
Irv,
Irv for Irv?
yes.
And Sarah Bass, I will vote for William. So William is 7-2. So William, you are a new vice chair. Congratulations. Go Pelham.
This is your moment.
Okay,
Do you want to display any of those, on the next one, do you want to display any of those policies or just?
oh, so we have to do our subcommittees first.
Oh, right, sorry. Sorry.
Can I make a comment while we wait for Doug to pull this up?
Yes.
We could all agree that people who are running for office just abstain from voting for themselves. And if everybody does that, then it doesn't change the outcome and it avoids the awkwardness of having to vote for oneself.
Okay. Okie dokie. So first up is our Budget and Audit Subcommittee. 3 volunteers. It has been myself and Tillman and Gabriella before. Tillman.
I'm happy to continue unless somebody else wants my seat.
All right. Tillman, you got it. Sarah?
I won't take Tillman's seat, but I could take Gabriella's.
Okay. I am happy to continue being on that committee as well, unless someone else has really big feelings. Nope, okay, sold. Policy Subcommittee. It had been Jennifer, William, Katie, and Anna. Would any of the current people like to remain?
I'll stay on it.
Anna?
I would stay on it.
I would stay on it.
Okay, are there anyone else that would, are you
I'd like to be on it.
be there? Just, okay, yep.
Who was that?
So it's Deb, Anna, William, and Jennifer.
Oops. We need to take out the.
But we don't know their chairs and vice chairs yet. Okay. Superintendent Evaluation Committee. Previously, William, Anna, and Irv.
I'm fine staying on.
I'm fine.
Irv, Anna?
Yeah.
All right, sold, done. We are.
Before she changes her mind.
Yeah,
right?
quick. All right, so the School Equity Advisory Committee had been, uh-oh, we're gone. Okay. William and Katie?
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time or not, but I don't know if they have a charge. And do we have a need, and why do we have that subcommittee? And what is the charge if we actually have it?
These are very good questions that I do not have the answer to.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yep, Deb?
Because they all should have a charge, I think, right? Or they shouldn't be a subcommittee.
Isn't it a task force now?
It grew out of a task force, from my understanding of the history.
Thought it went the other way.
It's an advisory committee currently,
Yeah.
not a task force.
Okay, so do we know anyone who
I'm-
participates?
I'm
You.
on it.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm still on it.
Okay.
Katie and I are both on it. But there's not a charge. And I
Okay.
think that if we have a subcommittee that the school committee decides to have, they should be given a charge and a reason and a purpose. And if there's not a purpose and a reason, then
Perhaps it's time to dissolve.
correct. That's what I was trying to
Okay.
figure out.
Um,
Because we don't currently have a charge for me as a person on it to take,
okay,
in my opinion.
okay. Did you? No? Okay. So,
Question?
Anna?
Is there not like a like, it's not just school committee, it is just school committee? Yeah.
I don't know what
So you join
the number of
community.
members are, but the last few meetings, there's been 3 community members and then 2 school committee members. And then sometimes staff comes.
So it's not clear who sets the charge, and we just send a representative to be there to help them?
I'm not sure.
And the community group is supposed to have the mandate?
The charge part?
Charge
Okay.
part?
I was just
Okay.
asking because I'm
know.
confused.
These are good questions, and I can try to find answers, but I do not have any, unfortunately. Jennifer?
Might I suggest for future agenda planning that we talk about this?
Talk about this?
Yeah.
That'd be
Yep.
great, thank you.
Okay.
I will stay on it because we have our meeting tomorrow night.
Okay, perfect.
And I'm on it, but I would love someone else to come too.
Okay.
Or not to come, but to join.
Bridget?
So I was just in the Amherst School Committee meeting put on that committee, I believe, so.
Do you want to wear
will
two
I-
hats?
Yes, I'm willing to do that. And this-
Excellent.
I mean, I'm very interested. I think this is an area where there should be a charge.
Oh,
and
I
there's
agree.
work to do. So
Yes.
Okay.
I'm hoping
Great.
we
You
can
win.
get
You're on.
it.
Sold. All right. So next.
Did
Yep.
I spell your first name correctly?
You've got it. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So we have some other rules and tasks that we also need to take care of. So we have our contract negotiating team with the 3 units of the APEA. This is not a contract year, but next year is a contract year. So we'll probably be looking to start in the fall.
Yeah, it's
Question mark?
Yeah. Fall or this time of year, a year from now.
Yeah, like end of fall, winter-ish of this year. So I served on it last year and the last several years. It is time consuming. It is really good work, but it is a lot. And it is great to, work with the teachers and really like understand things, their point of view when, coming to the table together. So it is definitely something I would recommend 2 people be a part of. I am very happy to give up my seat if anybody would like it. But we'll stay if there are no takers.
I hesitate. I have a question.
You're not volunteering yet?
Not yet.
Okay, go ahead, Sarah.
I see there are other negotiation teams. So do any of those contracts, will any of those come up sooner than the
Doug?
APEA?
Yeah, so AFSCME, AFSCME, actually, I think the initial meeting, so AFSCME and UFCW, which is United Food and Commercial Workers, which is our food service department. AFSCME is our maintainers, drivers, custodians. Those are both, those contracts in June 30, 2024, so we're going to go into negotiations now. I think we actually scheduled a kickoff meeting with AFSCME for the 22nd of this month. So get ready. And then I think for UFCW, I think we're in the same process. We're starting to try to schedule a date to get together. And so usually the first meeting is sort of ground rules, and some basics of organization. I will say that those two, they're smaller groups, and so the number of issues are often a little more straightforward. Sometimes it's as simple as just what's the COLA. Sometimes there's other issues. I can tell you for AFSCME, there's a couple of questions that we want to go and work through with them on, and do that in a constructive and collaborative way. UFCW, I haven't heard anything from sort of our side of that as far as things that we want to suggest, and we'll see what the union brings forward as things that they're interested in. But being smaller groups, they're a little more straightforward as far as the process is concerned. But those are this year. The APA, which is the other one, is on the same cycle as the teachers. So their contracts through June of 25.
Deb?
What would you say are skills necessary for that committee?
So I would say, if I may,
No,
is that right? Because I said it on a So I think that the key thing on any of these negotiation teams is trying to, sort of listen and understand and have an understanding of what the, concerns and problems that they're bringing forward. Are they ones we can resolve or not resolve? To what extent? What things do we as a district have to sort of, I don't want to say defend, that sounds very confrontational, I don't mean that at all. There are certain, management rights that we want to retain. And there's certainly financial constraints that we operate under as a district, and so those are things that you have to kind of come to some understanding of. And so you'll have a good sense of that as we go through the budget this year. But it's a nice opportunity to meet a lot broader group of folks than just me.
Sarah?
Another question. I have no idea how these teams work, and I don't want a big explanation, but I assume it's not just one school committee person in a room.
Oh, no.
So who?
So on the
So who else is supporting, or what is the school committee person's role in the
So,
district side of it?
you are representing the school committee, right? In all of the negotiations, and so it was the director of finance and the attorney and school committee members and HR.
That's pretty much it.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
There was that one municipal representative too, right?
So the municipal representative wasn't part of the interior, like the small negotiating team, but a municipal representative does come to participate when we have our executive session to like relay the information back to the committee and have the committee decide on where things go next. Deb?
More questions. Sorry. So the budget is determined prior to the negotiations, or do they interact with each? How do those two pieces fit together?
I can talk to that.
Yeah.
So the other thing I'll say is it's technically, school committee is negotiating with the union. The purpose of the HR folks and the lawyer and the finance person there is to provide context and advice. Obviously, we have opinions about how we should, as a employer, be advocating, but you know, it is under your direction as a school committee member, and partly your opinion matters, and then also you have to consider the broader group that you're going to bring it back to for approval, right? So I may have something like, oh, they all have to wear orange shirts or something crazy like that, and you're like, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of, right? I'm not going to take that to the full school committee, right? So you know, you still have, as a member of this negotiating, you know, the lead role in some ways, but it's often driven by staff. We're technically in an advisory role in that regard. As far as budget, so what we do is, if we're doing a budget, so for like this year's budget, I don't know where things will land with regard to UFCW and AFSCME, and so we make a guess. And we know what our resources look like, and what our, you know, typical year-over-year sort of increases in resources are, and so that helps frame a number, and we make an estimate of what we think we can afford as a district, and we put that into the budget in a placeholder in a thing called control accounts. And we do that because you can't, you want to preserve the integrity of the negotiations. So you have to put something in to kind of carry a block of money forward, but you don't put it you don't carry it specifically to the location where it normally lives, and so it sits in those control accounts as this sort of block that's going to try to cover all the different pieces that end up getting negotiated. And it's you know, we make our best guess as to what that looks like and what we can afford and what we think is a reasonable offer to make. And so, yeah, when we do the budget, like when we did this year's budget, and we hadn't, you know, finished negotiations when we were budgeting, we were, you know, we've got a, you know, sort of big black box that we're sort of trying to make the best guess of what we think it's going to be. And, you know, if we guess wrong, it can be really tough. We try not to guess really badly wrong in the financial aspect.
All right, William?
I would just say, if you were on it, I would join you on it, if you were there.
That feels awfully loaded.
I will join you and help you if you stay on it.
Okay. All right. Looks like Team Pelham. All right. So, AFSCME?
Yes, I'm happy to stay on, and
Okay.
I've already been invited to the January 2nd,
Perfect.
22nd meeting.
Excellent. APAA, which is the assistant principals.
So I have a question.
Yep.
Does your appointment of a interim principal change the assistant principal structure?
If that were to happen, no, it wouldn't at this point, but I mean, as far as,
And then,
the difficulty with
are
interims
the
is it's a little-
interim assistant principals part of the union?
Mhm.
Okay. And, okay, I just wanted to like get a full understanding of, it's not that many assistant principals, but yeah.
No,
okay.
the entirety of the APAA is maybe 13 people.
Okay.
Because there's some other folks that are in
Oh,
there
okay,
that are like
okay.
central
It's not
office
just
director
assistant
types
principal,
and
okay.
that kind of thing, but not a
Alright.
whole lot.
Okay. I mean,
And it's
I've
a
only
year
been on
from
the
now
committee
before the
for
negotiation would
a
be.
couple weeks, so I will continue.
Thank you. All right, and negotiating contract for UFCW, this is the food services. Sarah, are you volunteering?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Okay, so to authorize our regional warrants, it had been William. And then we need a person and then a backup person. It is, signing the warrant documents by DocuSign. It's all virtual. And then when you come back to the full committee to report out the warrants you've signed. So.
I'm okay continuing.
Okay, excellent. And then a backup? Deb?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Who was it?
Deb. All right. Oh my gosh. So much scrolling. Okay, so our clerical merit award selection.
I'll stay.
Stay?
That's the best job.
It's one of the best jobs.
That might be the best job up there. Okay, so then we need a delegate to go to MASC. They have we are part of MASC, the annual conference in, it's like in the fall in November?
Yeah, November in
Oh, it says it.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And it's on the Cape. So
So,
in November.
So I attended the meeting 2 years ago, and it was great. And so, sorry, I just want to say, if any school committee member can attend the conference. There's like breakout sessions and speeches, and it's a great networking opportunity. There's also like the business of MASC, which is what the delegates do. So you don't have to be a delegate to attend. Anyone can attend. And I attended 2 years ago, but not this past year. And I'm happy to continue, but I'm also happy to let someone else take on the role of delegate. As a delegate, you vote on matters having to do with the MASC as an organization. And the MASC is the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. It's the professional organization that our school committee belongs to.
Question.
Yes.
So I sat down for the Amherst meeting a little bit, and they voted someone?
No, we
they
postponed.
it. Okay.
It's in
So,
November, we thought.
is it someone from Pelham, someone from Amherst,
Yes.
and someone from the region? I'm just curious.
Yep, so
Yes? Oh, okay.
we are our own individual school committees, and each own individual school committee gets to send their own delegate. So Amherst can send one, Pelham can send one, the region sends one. If that happens to overlap and you wear both your hats, that is.
Then you get 2 votes as a
Then you
delegate.
get 2 votes.
Yeah, you actually do. I've seen it happen.
You vote for
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, you do.
So.
I wouldn't mind doing it, but I don't want to
Okay.
take it from her. Does that make sense?
No, go for it.
Okay.
It's a
William,
great
you
opportunity.
won.
Yeah.
It's yours. All right. So then we go to appropriate chair, and then so we can have up to 3 collaborative representatives. Tillman.
Yeah, so I'm already representing Leverett, their own school committee, so I wear 2 hats there, so I'm happy to continue to save people time. I also want to note that it says dinner provided, but if it's a hybrid meeting and you're remote, don't deliver.
No dinner.
I believe I was just notified today that I'm on it for Pelham, so I could do both.
You want to wear 2 hats?
If the committee would want me to here.
I mean, you can both go if you want.
Well, I have to go for Leverett already, so.
Right, I'm supposedly, I was on it for Pelham that I found out
Okay.
today. So.
Well, so leave
Both
them,
of us and.
leave them both
Yeah,
up there.
Someone else?
I'm there for Amherst already, so.
Oh, good, okay.
Oh, up to 3.
So you can all not have dinner together.
Can all order your own individual takeout, but maybe the only person they'll deliver to is Bridget. Okay, so moving along, we are our CPAC liaison.
I just went to the meeting the other day, and I'm meeting with him on Friday, so I'll stay on.
Perfect. And our BIPOC liaison.
Actually, that should be, I should change that.
BIPOC. Yep. Sorry. Thank you.
They actually made their name that.
MAC.
They made it for
Okay.
impact. So they made it M for multilingual, parent advisory. The state calls it LPAC.
Okay.
It, like CPAC, is a required advisory council.
I am the rep for Amherst, so I'm happy to do it for the region as well.
Great. Thank you.
Are the same meetings?
Yeah.
Okay, so our subcommittee for a new superintendent had been Margaret, Jennifer, William, and Anna. I don't think I feel comfortable reconfiguring that without Union 26 being called to order and represented. So I think if that is something we would like to revisit, we could do that at another time, but personally, I don't feel comfortable without Union 26 being called to order to do that. Okay, so our investigative reports subcommittee, we had talked about several meetings ago.
We did.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure where to go from there with that one. I mean, I still feel like most of those things should be taken up by the policy subcommittee, because the piece that we have as school committee members purview over is the policy. But
I mean, I
open
kind of
for
see
discussion.
that we haven't had any roundtables or any time for the community to come and speak to anyone for the school committee. And maybe in that investigative report subcommittee, it could be a platform to host listening sessions or other sessions. I don't know if that would.
I think that
Oh.
having this subcommittee is a really important step that this school committee needs to do, because there hasn't been any kind of formal response of the school committee to those investigative reports. And there are still a lot of questions and issues, and people still have concerns. So I think it's a very important subcommittee. The only thing that I think the subcommittee should exist, and we should do this. However, I also believe that we need to have a charge of the subcommittee. In other words, the school committee we need to make a charge. What is this subcommittee going to be responsible for? What is its charge? That it should exist is not a question, but what is its charge?
Jennifer?
So thank you, Irv. I agree with what Irv said. The motion, so the existence of the committee has already been discussed and voted on, and it was approved. The motion was to create this subcommittee to review the reports and make recommendations to the regional school committee about actions that are within the purview of the regional school committee to take. So that sounds like a charge to me. So I think we should go forth with populating the committee.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely would like to be on that committee.
Irv?
How many are you putting on the
Less than 4?
Four or less?
4 or less.
4 or less? Up to 4? Jennifer?
I would like to be on the committee, subcommittee.
That's a lot.
Oh, boy.
Sorry.
Any other takers who'd like to be on the subcommittee?
I would like to.
William, Jennifer, and
Oh, how many?
I think
I don't know how many we're up to. I'm sorry, I only see
we
one
are up
name.
to 3. So
Do we have a fourth?
we are deciding 4th. Who? Does anyone want to speak to any of it?
So might I suggest, I mean, I don't, it seems like did both of you raise your hands?
And
1,
Ann
2,
did.
3,
Yeah.
4, 5, and Irv, 6 people interested. I don't think we should just go with the first
I
3
Yeah, that's-
who raised their hands. We should talk about it. I think that, like, it seems like it's 5 Amherst people and Pelham. So I feel like it shouldn't be all, I mean, I feel like William as a Pelham person should be on the
And
committee.
I'll pull my queer card, so I think I should be on it.
That's appropriate. So that's my opinion, and then the other 3 can come from the other people who expressed interest.
And I think some people that have expressed interest probably have lived experiences too in the situation, and so it might be important to make sure we consider that.
Are you raising your hand? Yep. Go
I
ahead.
just want to know that there's another juicy subcommittee coming up next, the track and field, so maybe we can think about where people want to put their effort.
Jennifer?
I will withdraw from the investigative reports subcommittee.
Okay, thank you. So would anybody else like to speak to being on the investigative reports subcommittee?
I guess the reason that I'm thinking about it or considering it is because this is, there's a good amount of this work that I do in my day-to-day job, and there's just really simple things, like I've heard things come up in the discussions that I know are best practices and can be put into place in this. I work with the school psychology department, and I put together flow charts and different types of things, and we could look at and see what the district has already and add and supplement to those in a way that students are protected. And then there's really a big DEI aspect to my job as well. And so it just seems to me like I have some skills I may be able to bring to the table. But if the committee feels full or other people want an opportunity, I can talk about the track and field, but I don't really have any expertise at all, so.
Okay.
Let me ask a question.
Irv?
When this was voted upon and approved, did it say up to 4 members, or did it have any number in there?
I don't know, but it cannot be more than 4 because otherwise we would be a quorum of the region, so.
Of the region?
Yes.
I see, all right.
Sarah?
I will withdraw in favor of Bridget, but I simply want to state that I would be happy to do this work because it is so important, and nothing has been more important to our community with respect to the schools in the last 8 months. So I didn't want to not volunteer and, and like I wasn't willing, but I'm happy to let Bridget bring her skills.
Okay. Are you, Deb?
So where are we at? How many?
There are 4 right now listed on here. Irv, William, Bridget, and yourself.
Okay. So I don't have to, okay.
Are we comfortable with that round of discussion to move on to our next discussion?
Just a minor point, that doesn't constitute a quorum of Union 26, right?
Right.
Because it's 3, not 3 out of 6.
Right.
But they're not talking about Union.
But still
No,
there.
they could be.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
But
No,
it's
I
3
think
out of
it's-
6 is not a quorum, right?
So 3 is not a quorum of Union 26, but it is a quorum, because there's 6 members, so a quorum of Union 26 would be 4. But it is a quorum of Amherst. But I don't, I don't think that's, I don't think that matters, because this is not an Amherst issue, it's not an Amherst subcommittee.
Right. I think that is true. I can try to. I don't know,
I'll withdraw.
no, I think it's fine.
think it's fine.
But I will, what are the,
What did, do you?
I mean,
the,
Open meeting law?
those people?
The attorneys?
Give me a C.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
they're like, oh my gosh.
I mean,
I'll do some research, I'll find out, I'll come back. But
Okay.
I think it's fine the way it
think
is,
it's fine.
and then if it's not, we can
That's true.
move from there. Okay.
so I think if it's not a problem, you can be on it, and then if it is a problem, maybe just have 3 people.
Okay.
Is that- okay.
Or switch out, who did we start with originally?
It's the
All
same.
Amherst people.
All Amherst.
All
It was
Amherst people.
Amherst people
Yeah.
anyway, okay.
And, I mean,
Tillman can-
if you really wanted 4 people on it, I would do it, but I don't need to do it, and I think we can get away with 3 and it'll
Yep.
be just fine.
Okay, yeah,
So-
that works.
So are we doing 4 and seeing?
4 and seeing, and then if
4.
it's not, then 3.
Yeah, so if we can hold off on scheduling a meeting until after our next meeting, I will come back after trying to figure out what to do. And hopefully my words will come back by then. All right, so at our, oh no, okay. At our last meeting, we also decided to have a track and fields subcommittee. My computer died. Can anyone, by any chance, bring up exactly what that looked like?
From the minutes?
From the,
Do we have minutes?
we don't have minutes.
So, my recollection is that Gabriella proposed a subcommittee to investigate, or to look into different pros and cons of grass and turf, and, is something about that?
Right.
She was the one who proposed it, so I don't really fully remember. Do you remember, Sarah?
Sarah?
Well, I was sitting there, not here,
Okay.
but I just wanted to say we may be voting on some motions that might affect whether or when or what this committee would do. So I wonder if we either postpone it till
Postpone
later
it?
in the meeting or,
I'm not opposed to postponing filling in this subcommittee until when we have those minutes to have exactly what the charge was. Because I would not want to, go back on ourselves. So if we are comfortable doing that, we can postpone till later. Good? Okay. I don't know what's next. I don't have a
could we
computer anymore.
take a 2-minute break, maybe?
Yes.
Run out of time.
Take a, I'm gonna do that first.
No, I'm just.
Oh, you're showing what it is, okay.
You asked
Yes.
what's next, I'm finding
Thank
one.
you. Yes, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back to our next thing. We'll come back at 9:15. discussion.
Point of order.
Yep.
2.5 hours have elapsed.
We actually called to order 6:52.
I retract my point of order.
I mean, I think you have like 15 minutes. So actually, I am going to recommend that we move to switch items B and C, because we have members of the boosters here to come give us presentations, and we don't need to keep them here until tomorrow. So if everybody's okay with that, I would like to invite the boosters to come up. So, I got it.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for inviting us. Nice to see you. Thanks for all your service. Every time if we come to meetings, we doubly, triply appreciate it. Sorry. Okay. So I also want to address, a bunch of you had sent individual emails, like, what's the number, what's the number? It's very complex. That's why I couldn't just spit out a number because of the way we've been fundraising. So just by point of reference, for our sakes, my sake, because I'm not familiar, I'm familiar with some of you from different backgrounds. Who here, if anybody, has ever held a job or full-time employment as a professional fundraiser? By show of hands, can you show?
I've done it for nonprofits, but not, I mean, not a full-time job, but like, yes.
So anybody as a way to make a living, full-time job? Okay, very good. So maybe you'll be able to follow along. Because this was a huge undertaking for about 6 or 7 volunteers at a given time. And I want to start, before giving any particular number, thanking the many people, our board, supporters, donors from $1 to $50,000. All of the time we put into this, many thousands of volunteer hours, many years. Not years of fundraising, years of information gathering, years of starting with this project, years of turnover of school administrators, town, school committee, etc. So there's a handful of us who have the kind of historical knowledge that all went into this. So,
Could I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
Sorry. Could you introduce yourselves?
oh, I am sorry. That makes, see, I'm not a professional fundraiser. I'm a volunteer. I'm the president of the Hurricane Boosters. My name is Mary Clays. In other roles, I am a mother of 5 children who have gone through the school system. One is a senior now. I have a younger fellow who's not in the school system at the moment, but in any event, anticipated to be in the high school next year. So I've been in the town for over 30 years, with my eldest being 32 and my youngest 14. And so I've been through all the school systems. I volunteered on more than one thing, PGO, you name it. So that's a little bit of me. And this is...
Hi, I'm Stephanie Hockman. I am the treasurer of the Boosters, mother of 2, a junior and a senior.
Okay. Sorry, I'm right into the boosters. So one of the things in wanting to be on the boosters and really put a lot of effort into the boosters 4 years ago, the board didn't initially just take on the track and field project. One of our overriding goals was DEI, which is a theme and something that needs to be worked on tremendously in this regional school district. And we find that the track and field project itself falls within that, and I'm not going to go into that because you're here to hear some numbers. So I'm going to give you first the private numbers that we've raised, because a lot of our fundraising efforts were not just focused on these private funds. Aside from these private funds, if you continue to have the $1.5 million that was agreed upon back in March of 2022 with some town funding and other funding, that's not private fundraising funds that we've done. there's approximately $3.36 million earmarked towards the track and field. So now, here, the drum roll is what we've been doing for so long. We have $349,540.50 committed. So having said that number, I want to again applaud all the supporters of the boosters, because this is a historical number to be raised. And actually, this number was raised probably in less than 1 year, okay? That's committed. Of that, we have cash in hand, because that's an important number to know, $243,040.50. I also think it's important to understand what the breakdown is of these numbers, because the volunteers for this project had to do a lot of education, meeting with professional fundraisers who volunteered their time to help understand how to professionally fundraise. So we have 6 businesses who've committed $147,050. We have several families who've committed $160,000. We have 11 individuals who had given over $1,000, and that amount is $21,500. Individuals giving more than 500 or more was 4,000. Individuals who had donated less than 500 is over 110 people of $11,643. There's some individuals who've committed to monthly plans, so they automatically have monthly funds withdrawn, and right now that's $1,360. And then we had several fundraising opportunities, or events, and 3 to be exact. One by Bank ESB, we had to postpone our next one based on some of the fall, based on several issues, but it was postponed. It was going to be a holiday thing, but that got postponed until we find out, are we still on track for the fundraising efforts that we had committed to. And I really want to give a huge shout out to Camille Butterfield. She was an assistant for the track and field. She gave a lot of time and effort and created some beautiful art pieces, and committed half of what she received to the track and field project. So very, very generous of Camille. And so from those fundraisers, we received $3,987.50. So what that means for us, back in March of 2022, we were very clear to the school committee at that time that we were doing this fundraising based on the option 3. For those of you who, does anyone need me to explain what option 3 is? Okay. And so that's been something that's been very transparent. And one of the reasons why we had to commit to something like that, because we've had some backlash, like why not just commit for the good of this? Why not just commit for that? That's why I wanted to ask who's been a professional fundraiser. We got guidance from professional fundraisers on having to commit to a particular specific plan, specific goal. We couldn't go there wishy-washy. Our town's going to do this. Maybe they're going to do that. Maybe we were very clear, because when you're trying to do so much this type of fundraising, you have to have clear goals and objectives. And that's what we thought we had back then. And so we went out, and then there was, without going into any specific details, I'll just say there's a lot of stops and starts, sidetracks, and this and that. So it's not because, it has to be our way or the highway. It has to be because when you're fundraising or trying to fundraise for millions of dollars, you have to be firm, you have to be committed, you have to have a vision. And back to the DEI. I'm a strong believer in Title IX. I've committed a lot of time into helping with supporting women's sports. And I've also committed a lot of time to access equity in my professional job, in my personal job, with my children. The 2018 report from architects who did a lot of work. Our town spent $80,000 to get an idea of what's going to solve the problem. So this fundraising effort and this information wasn't something that happened in 2022. It was developed well over 4 years of time and commitment, seeing what needs to happen. Along with these fundraising efforts, we kept our commitment to our regular mission. We had to continue to raise funds for our regular mission of making sure that we kept at least status quo. But I want to give credit to our boosters for doing even more than status quo. So we have this huge capital commitment that we're trying to fundraise for. And we're also not forgetting about keeping the status quo. And I will give a few more plugs. We did a little bit more than status quo in equalizing certain opportunities. We made sure that all sports had access to video equipment for their college recruiting. We made sure that all teams and seniors have access to certain fundraising opportunities. Okay, so this capital project, we've had, I'll tell you some of the roadblocks, again, back to people who aren't professional fundraisers. We don't have a single paid staff member. So when writing or seeking, searching, investigating, researching hundreds of grants, a lot of them do not accept grants from organizations that do not have a paid staff member. A lot of them do not accept grants from capital projects benefiting a municipality, such as this situation. I have yet to find another town or regional school system that relies on 5 to 7 parents to raise millions of dollars for their track and field. But we want to support our school system. We want to support the kids who are going to school because that sport or that coach or that team is their belonging. That's what's getting them to school. So I'm gonna just stop for a second, look to Stephanie, see if I missed anything in my
Yeah, I'm just going to chime in a little bit and then see if you guys have questions for us. The thing I would note is that the agreements that we entered into with those businesses and/or family members, the agreement states that it is for a north-south oriented 8-lane track turf, artificial turf option. If for some reason this school board decides to go back on what they have said in the past, which apparently Sarah Bess doesn't like to do, which I like, we would then have to go back to those donors and ask what they would like to do. I already know of at least one business who will ask for their money back, and I think you can expect that. I think as a regional school committee, you need to understand that almost 200 unique individuals in this community have contributed in their own way to this project. That's a big number, right? We talk about the Hispanic community being 240 unique families, right? It is a big part of our community, so we need to take that into account. It's important to large community members. I don't know if Doug has given you guys the latest update on where the track and field process is. Have you? Okay, let me give you just
That's next.
let me give you my short view of it, okay? I've been working with a guy by the name of Robert Parent, who was hired out of ARPA funds by the town of Amherst to run various projects for the town of Amherst, one being the track and field. He put out RFPs. They have now signed a contract with SLR Consulting, which is based in Agawam and is dedicated to sustainability. They will be and have started the process, or will start the next steps, which are, surveying, geotechnical evaluation, soil testing, evaluation of existing culvert that crosses the site, and related drainage issues. I'm just copying. They're hoping to finish that this winter. With that, they'll update the designs, because as Mary mentioned, the designs we have are from 2017, 2018. We need to have those updated. And with that, we'll have a new cost estimate. Just kind of, that's my understanding from Robert. They're going to have a kickoff meeting with SLR in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have a better knowledge of the timeline. But I wanted to make you guys aware that everything that the RFPs had out there, as well as what SLR is basing their information on, is option 3. The money that has been spent so far, the $80,000 back in 2017, the money we're spending now, is based on option 3. So you have to think about how much money you could be throwing down the drain if you decide to go in a different direction. And the last thing I'm going to say is that Mary and I and the rest of the boosters have been putting a lot of effort toward this. And we've been doing it for a couple of years in stops and starts, thanks to the craziness of this town and the board and the changes that have happened over the last couple of years. Our terms end at the end of 2024. And I am no longer personally going to spend any more time, my precious time with my kids that are about to go off to college, if you guys aren't fully committed. Because it is a waste of my time. Now I'm really done.
Any questions? I just want to add to that. We had to pull together to see how much more we could sustain, because we've been to multiple meetings, and it was just kind of surprising to us how many times we were derailed with the fundraising efforts. And so we want to be clear and honest. We will do what whatever you decide and whatever's going to happen. If it's decided that we're going to keep on this track, yes, pun intended, we are committed to continuing to fundraise until our terms are up as president and treasurer, which is at the end of this year. So we will wholeheartedly continue to do what we said we've been doing, what we've been doing, if it remains. But we just need to make sure it's firm, and that's okay, whether that's going to happen or not. But we just need to be clear about that. If for some reason fundraising for, we will see what we could do as